Okay. Oh, wait, what does that button do? Oh, there's a create highlight button that I can click. You might be able to even click it to clip something to turn it into shorts. We'll figure that out later. All right. Well, this thing should be going. There we go. That's cool. Where's my chat at? There it is. What's going on, Jakes? Nice to see you. Nice to have you in the chat. Oh, we got 10 people in here already. That's super cool. Well, welcome, everybody. We're just getting started with this thing. We haven't even begun talking about anything yet. Hope you all are having a great Sunday. Hope the weather's nice where you are. It finally is nice here where we are. It's been friggin' nasty for, I don't know, a couple of weeks now, at least. How's it going, Ginger? Nice to see you. Northeastern Reef, hello, back at you. Hope everybody's doing good. We're going to get this thing kicked off and hang out for a little while. Chile in South Africa. Really? I don't know what the weather is like there. I've never really looked at it. I know a few people. Well, I have a few followers and stuff from that area of the world, obviously, but I've never looked into it. Interesting. Camaro, what's going on, man? Nice to see you here. Oh, yeah, spot on time, definitely. We don't ever want to be late getting the live stream started or anything like that. That's never good. Willie, afternoon back at you. Nice to see you guys here. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to talk about reef tanks and all kinds of stuff here in just a little while, letting a few more people jump into the stream. So we're actually, I'll make that announcement later on. It's fine. Turning winter soon, Southern Hemisphere. Got you. So you guys are kind of on the opposite from us then. That makes sense. Makes sense for sure. How's everybody's tank doing? Anybody having any tank issues that you need to talk about or get information about? My tank is pissing me off again. For some reason, my Micromusa and some of my hammers are mad, and I don't know why. Yeah. What's up, Gage? Nice to see you here. Yeah, you made it on time. We're just getting going. I did have an oops the other day. It's been about 10 days or so, 2 weeks since that happened, and I hooked up my doser. I got all my stuff organized and everything. I thought it was going to be okay, but so I filled up my phosphate bottle for my doser because I needed to begin dosing phosphates to the tank to bring them up, and it gravity siphoned everything out of the phosphate bottle. And so instead of dosing my one dose that I told it to do after I tested everything and it looked fine, it dosed 200 days worth of phosphate media into the tank and spiked my phosphates up to 1.0. So now I'm currently dealing with that and trying to get that to come back down before that causes a problem. Yo, Jay, what's going on, man? Nice to see you here. Jakes has the first question. How can I remove a mushroom without hurting it from a frag plug? So mushrooms are kind of like anemones. Some of the same ways that you can get nems to move, you can get mushrooms to move. So putting them in a high flow area, not like crazy high, but if you direct a pump like straight at it, it doesn't want to be in that scenario. So sometimes they'll let go and pop off the frag plug and try to move somewhere else. Other than that, you could use a piece of ice or something right around the foot of the mushroom to try to annoy it and get it to move a little bit. That's really about it, though. You know, if you try to cut it off or pull it off or anything like that, it's going to hurt the coral. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. Just try flow or ice on the foot to, kind of make it mad and make it where it wants to move. Still got to install plumbing. Yeah, I got you. I hear you. Transferred all my coral to my new tank over a month ago, and sadly, my rock flower nem is clear. So that sounds like bleaching. It could be that it's just getting way too much light. It's not always the case, but that would be my first sort of indicator or first idea about that. So double check the output from your light and see how much par that anemone is getting, because it may be just getting too much. I've got mine all the way down here on the sand bed. They're only getting about 75 or 80 par, something like that. they don't really need a whole lot. Now, once they color up, they can tolerate a lot, because where they're found in nature is in shallow rock pools and stuff like that. They actually get blasted by the sun, so they can tolerate a lot of par, but sometimes it makes them bleach. It's hard to be sure. But currently got some diatoms building up into 20-gallon. Picked up some snails to help. Right on. That's cool, Sage. Check your RODI water. Make sure that you are not getting silicates passing through your RODI. Unfortunately, the only way to test for that is with ICP. Home grade silicate test kits really don't work. There is one, Champion or something. It starts with a CH, I believe. Man, I can't remember the name of it. Commander, Komodo, something like that. Commodore, I think, might be it. It's pretty much the only silicate test kit that we can get and use at home that's even remotely decent. Don't the Saltwater ones, Red Sea, any of those other ones like that, they're not gonna tell you anything. You just can't trust the results. So yeah, just make sure your filters are good in your RODI unit and stuff like that. But if the tank is fairly new, this is a normal part of the process, and it just needs to go through with that. Jake's got finished with his rockscape and plumbing soon. Very cool. Yeah, no worries, man. Happy to help with the advice. My rock flower is hiding in a cave. How do I get him out? You don't. You just let him do his thing. He will come out and move around and search for light when he is ready. In fact, trying to make him move into a place where you want him to be is probably going to do more harm than good. So I wouldn't recommend that. I would just leave it alone, let it do its thing. It's going to go where it wants to go anyway. So the NIM is sitting around 110. It's tucked deep in a shaded area. I'm thinking maybe the new tank isn't established enough yet. Possibly, maybe. Parameters usually aren't going to make it hide away like that. It's usually a light or a spectrum thing, but stranger things have happened, all we can do is sort of guess based on education that we've had and information that we can get from different places. We never really truly know what the cause is of anything like that. So if it's not par, it could be parameters, maybe an alkalinity swing or a pH swing, something like that's pissing it off, but it's really hard to know for sure. But the best thing that you can do is just leave it alone. It's going to go where it needs to go. You can try to feed it a little bit, just something small like mysis or brine shrimp, and give it a little nutrition that way, and hopefully it'll be okay. Let's see. Can you talk about the wave orbital motion? I recently discovered this concept, and it helped me create the pulsing flow that makes LPS corals sway naturally instead of being pushed from side to side. Yeah, so those are really cool devices. If you've never heard of any of those, there's a couple of different ones on the market, but they basically hold your wave maker on a rod that is connected to a motorized bit at the top, and it moves your wave maker back and forth. I think it can do 360 degrees, but as your wave maker is moving through that, the new ones, I think the one you're talking about, your wave maker is actually controlled by it as well. So if you could have it blowing like 90% here, and as it goes this way, it ramps down to like 20%. So if you have LPS over here and SPS over there, you can make it do different things. Really cool device. Pretty expensive, but really cool. It's only like 2 months. I've been using the Primo water brand from Walmart. I'm not familiar with that water brand, Sage. If it's distilled water, there's a good chance that it does not have any silicate in it. If it's just RO water only, it may have silicate in it, and you might be dosing silicate to your tank every time you top your tank off. I would highly recommend getting an RODI unit for your own home. You can get a decent one these days for about $100. I have some listed on my website under my Amazon product recommendations page on my website at reefrookies.com. You could go there, dial down through those, find an RODI unit that fits what you're looking for. That's going to be one of the best things that you ever buy for the reef keeping hobby. I mean, I bought one 20 something years ago. I've never had to buy another one. I just replaced the filters and it's still working just fine. So it could be the water you're using, man. D says, thanks for the info. Yeah, sure things. Always. First thing to do always is check the water parameters. We'll see where they are and then double check the lighting after that. And since you just moved the tank, you might want to run some activated carbon for a little while. And, see if there's maybe some hydrogen sulfide or something hanging out in there that's upsetting things. Okay. Let's see. Can we make a petition to make the hobby somewhat more affordable? Yeah, I thought that would really help. I wish that would work. Lucas says, hey, thanks for all the help with transferring the tank. Absolutely, man. And thank you for being a YouTube channel member. And if all 19,500 people on my YouTube channel went and subscribed for the $1 a month tier of my YouTube channel membership, the things that I could do for this hobby would be astronomical. I got all kinds of plans. I just don't have the funding to do them all. So there's a lot of different products and stuff that I want to bring to the market. Some of them exist and I think I can do them better. Some of them don't even exist yet. And I think it will be helpful to a lot of people. But you guys got to go subscribe for that $1 a month tier. That would be amazing. But anyway, enough about that. D says, side question. I messaged to the business account about a Bash C filter floss custom cup I was having issues with, wondering if you have any familiarities with a cup to fit a smart sump. I think I saw that. I thought I responded to that. I'll have to double check. Did you send it? Did you email it? Email it, if you don't mind, D, so that I don't lose it or it doesn't get lost in the mess. Send an email to Peace of a Reef, PEACE of a Reef @gmail.com with that information that you're talking about, and we'll take a look at it. Although, while I have you all here, we are going to be out of state this weekend from Thursday to Monday for Reef Retreat, for, reefy stuff. So 3D prints are going to be held back just a little bit. They're still going to be shipped on their normal time and stuff like that. But if you order like next Thursday, I'm not going to be home. So anyway, just so you guys know that, I'm probably not going to be responding to messages quite as quickly or if at all during the trip, because we're going to be very busy. But yeah, so anyway, that's what's happening next weekend. There will not be a live stream next Sunday. I don't know, if things work out, we might be getting tattoos on Sunday. Monday. Never mind. No, yeah, Sunday we're going to be in classroom all day long. But so yeah, anyway, send an email over and we'll take a look. I just lost my whole tank. I'm starting from scratch. That is not good. That sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. A couple messages down. She said, can I start my tank with corals? Yes, absolutely you can. I have a video on the YouTube channel about that very thing. I wouldn't start the tank with anything that's really super sensitive. I would choose corals that are much less sensitive, mushrooms, Duncan, candy cane. What else would I start with? I did a video on this. I mentioned some in the video. Blastomusa would be okay. I'm looking at my tank. I would say Micromusa too, but they can be a little picky sometimes. Maybe some cheap hammers or something like that. That would be okay. Yeah. Starting the tank with corals actually helps in a lot of different ways. It brings diversity into the tank and bacteria and things like that. And corals actually use ammonia more readily than they use nitrate. So if you have corals in the tank during the nitrogen cycle, you almost don't ever see any ammonia because they use it up. So yeah, you can absolutely do it. Check that video out. There's a lot more information in there about that. Mitch says, I've got a 60-gallon breeder, just starting the hobby, can't make up my mind, hang on the back or canister. I cannot do a sump. Also, any light recommendations? Yes, I personally would do hang on the back stuff. I don't like canister filters. There's nothing really innately wrong with them. I just don't like them. They almost always make a mess when you're trying to clean them or, do any maintenance on them or stuff like that. And you got to be religious about your maintenance with those things. Every week, you got to disassemble it, clean the filters, whatever, or they become a problem. So hang on the back. Products that you'll want to look for. I need to add. Could you write this on your notebook to add to the Amazon list? Is hang on the back filters. I don't think we did those. Okay. You mad at me?
No, baby.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. I'm just checking.
I'm just waiting.
So you can look at the Aqua Clear brand of hang on the back filter. They got a big old filter box that goes on the back. So lots of room for media and other things. Tidal is another one, Tidal. They make good hang on the back filters, and then hang on the back skimmers as well. So probably for a 60 breeder, I'd probably run 2 hang on the back filters, like one on either side of the tank, and then a hang on the back skimmer in the middle and 2 lights in between those 2. That's how I would set that up. I've seen tanks set up like that. They run great. They do work absolutely perfectly. As far as lighting goes for a 60 breeder, it really depends on what you want to put in the tank. But if it's going to be, we're about to hit the most members we've ever had in a live stream too, by the way. There was just 78 in here a second ago. It dropped a little bit, but if we crack 80, I think that's the most we've ever had.
This is definitely the most we've had in the first 15
minutes. Yeah, definitely the most we've had in the first 15 minutes, for sure. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm going to keep answering Mitch here for just another minute. Nycrew 65 watt would be good. Pop Bloom RL90 would be good. Or if you wanted to keep SPS and Acropora, you could go with the RL115. A single Nycrew Hyper Reef Gen 2 200 watt would be absolutely awesome, but it's going to have to go in the middle of the tank. So in that case, you might just run 1 hang on the back filter and 1 hang on the back skimmer or something like that. I have a lot of recommendations on my Amazon product recommendations page of my website. So go to reefrookies.com, find that Amazon product recommendation page, and go through there and you'll find all kinds of recommendations for products, wave makers, pumps, filters, RODI units, lights, skimmers, all that stuff is all on there. And if you purchase anything through those links, I get a little kickback from Amazon. So it's one of the ways that we support this without having corporate sponsors paying me to do this. So pretty cool thing. I hope that helps anyway. Let's keep going. Wave orbital motion refers to the circular or elliptical movement of water particles. Yes, that is true. And that's what that device tries to emulate, is that sort of random flow sort of pattern. I've been using RO water only, not RODI. I currently have diatoms. Will they go away if I change to RODI water now? It's very likely that they will. It's not guaranteed that they will, because sometimes silicates can make it through the DI as well, but it would go a long way probably into helping you solve that situation. I would highly recommend it. Kimberly says, whew, I made it. We're just getting started. We've only been going 18 minutes. We got a couple of more hours at least to go. So welcome to the stream, and thank you so much for being a YouTube channel member. That means a ton. You came very far in the last 2 years. Thank you, my friend. It has been an absolute absurd amount of work, especially in probably the last 4 months. It's just been crazy. We basically work from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, usually. So it's an insane amount of work. Lyle says, honey, I'm home. What's going on, man? Nice to see you here. So excited. Just came home with a 300. That's a big tank. That's almost twice as big as my tank. Almost. Not quite, but almost twice as big. Manuel says, any problem if my frog spawn is close, almost touching one of the hammers? It depends. If they're both Australian, it might be okay. Or if they're both Indo-Pacific, it might be okay. But if one's Australian and one is Indo, they might fight. It really just depends. The only way for you to know is to try it. And unfortunately, sometimes that creates a problem and kills coral. It's impossible for me to say for sure, man. So I'm sorry about that. But it might be okay. It might not be. You got a 50-50 shot. That's 84 people in the stream. That is a record not only for the most number of people, but the most number of people this early. And now it's back to 72. Anyway, It's all right. That's going to fluctuate. But yeah, it's super cool. This is Stephanie says, thank you. This is my first time seeing your channel. Well, that's awesome, Stephanie. Let me tell you about all the other things that we have as well. We have a private Facebook group, which is the most respectful Facebook group that you're going to find for reefing on the internet. And in that group, 25% of the active members are women. So I don't know the analytics for other Facebook groups, but I don't see near as much participation by the ladies in those other groups as we get in our group, because we make sure that you guys aren't spoken to in ways that you shouldn't be. So yeah, we have a Facebook group. We have a Discord server if anybody likes Discord. I do TikTok sometimes, which is funny because all this got started on TikTok. I do that sometimes. I have an Instagram, and I have a website, reefrookies.com, which you've heard me mention a couple of times. There's a lot of stuff on the website that you can find. We do blogs and 3D prints, and I offer one-on-one consultations as well, which are paid. I have to make a living doing this. So if you need some help like that, we can book a one-on-one, and people really find that very helpful. So thank you so much for joining or hanging out with us and, finding the channel and all that. Would an anemone want to be upside down half the time? No. If there's something, if you have a nem that is upside down, is on his face, it's not healthy. It's not doing well. I would probably take it out of the tank, or at the very least, put it in an acclimation box where it's really low flow, and try to keep it upright on its foot. Because yeah, upside down anemones they're not doing good. Hate to hear that. So, yep. My wife mentioned the website to you, Stephanie. That's pretty cool. Retep, what's going on, man? Nice to see you back in the stream. Always happy to have you here. Mysterious says, I'm using 2 XR30 Gen 4 from a 3-foot acro dominated. Yeah, good lights. Good lights for a small tank like that. Yeah. Anthony says, love the channel. Love you back, Anthony. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Chris Walker says hi from the UK. Very cool. Tay-Tay is in the house. How's it going, Tay-Tay? Noah says, my refractometer doesn't stay calibrated. It's a cheap one from Amazon. What should I do? There are several reasons why your refractometer may not stay calibrated. One is because it's cheap, but look, I'm not judging you. I have a cheap one from Amazon too. Mine just happens to be good. I keep mine in the box in the foam, right? So if you set those things down hard, not even real hard, if you set them on a hard surface and it makes a noise that you can audibly hear when you set it down, it'll knock it out of calibration. Also, if the temperature changes much where that refractometer is, it will change the calibration. So always calibrate with refractometer calibration solution, not RODI water, unless you have the one specific type of seawater refractometer, which you probably don't if it was cheap. Then that one you can do RODI. But the normal ones that we get on Amazon, the $20, $30 ones, they need the calibration solution. And calibrate it every time you use it. Not like every time you take a sample, but every week or every 2 days, whenever you're going to test your tank or whatever. Each time, if there's been a day or two in between test sessions, recalibrate it again. That's just the right way to do it. Now, sometimes you won't have to change the calibration. A lot of times you will. I have to adjust mine almost every time because temperature changes the calibration on those devices. So almost at 90 members in the live stream. That's super cool. I know people who have 125,000 subscriber channels who don't get 90 people hanging out in their live streams. So I feel very fortunate that you guys are all here with us today. That means a lot to me. What else we got going on here? I see you. I see you too. I'm waiting to set up an auto water change setup. What dosing pumps would you recommend? For auto water change. So I don't know if you're into computer automation kind of stuff or not, but CoralView just announced one called the Duet, which is meant exactly for that reason. Aside from that, you might look at Kamoer, Kamoer. They make very good sort of dosing pumps and things. There's another one that I'm trying to remember the name of. I have seen people do it with the Jabo, like the DP2. I've seen them do it with that, and honestly, I wouldn't mind, doing it with one of those, but it's going to be pretty slow. So if you have a big tank, if your 10% water change is, 20, 30, 40 gallons like mine is, well, it's not quite that much. But if it's bigger, it's going to take a couple hours to do that. But yeah, I would, if I was going to do like a auto water change myself, I'd probably go with Kamoer. That'd be a good recommendation. There are some devices out there. That's why I'm looking off in the left field of my brain. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the name of it. There's a couple of devices out there made specifically for just doing auto water changes. So check those out and see what you think. I had issues with my RODI water having silicates get through. ChemiPure Blue helped my tank. Yep. ChemiPure Blue. Blue, one has Purigen, one has GFO. I think blue is carbon and Purigen, which in theory should remove silicates, some. The other one, ChemiPure Elite, has GFO in it. It's not going to do anything for silicates. Or maybe I'm getting that backwards. Could go either way. But that's good to know. I'm glad that helped you out. Jason says, what granular activated carbon, GAC, do you like? Is it worth buying that pellet rocks? I think I can't read today. I've been getting the Marine Land Bismuth, and it's rather dusty. So yeah, Dino's placing 1 foot out the door. Yeah, dinos suck, man. That it sucks, but don't let it beat you. You can beat it and come back stronger afterwards. As far as the carbon, I don't use the pellet type. Well, I do use the pellet type. There's another type that is like just broke up pieces of activated carbon. It's real angular and jagged. That's not the one I'm talking about. The one I'm talking about is little capsule shaped, little oblong sort of shaped pellets. It's made by BRS. It's called ROX, like you're talking about. It's 0.8, I believe it is what it is. I use that one, and there's almost no dust. It's very little dust in it, which is super important if you're going to be running granular activated carbon. Now, there are some new ones. The people over at the Moonshiners, the Reef Moonshiner stuff, they have a catalytically activated carbon, which is a little bit different, and it doesn't have any dust either. And then also, Novel Aquatics just dropped a new line of not carbon, but other supplements that you can use to remove dissolved organic compounds from the water. So you're doing the same thing as activated carbon, but it's not carbon. That's Novel Aquatics. Salem Clemens owns that and designed that line of product. They just hit the market. They're just now coming out. I don't remember what it's called, but if you look up Novel, Novel Aquatics, you'll find it. Or you can look up Salem Clemens on YouTube or TikTok or Facebook. You'll find what I'm talking about. And so yeah, I haven't tested it yet. He said he was going to send me some. We just haven't worked out the details. And so I'll let you guys know when I get that and whatnot. But Jason says, we were talking about dinos. Yeah, it sucks. Microscopic ID is the way to go. That's your first step. Noah says, like any other parameter, the number of people in the stream will vary. Oh yeah, will vary over time. No, I'm not chasing numbers. It's just nice to see, D says, we were just talking about activated carbon. I have a gallon of Kohler Labs, and it was very magnetic as well as rusted. Yeah, I would not use that if it's showing rust and whatnot in there. I would use the stuff from BRS, the 0.8 ROX. That's the carbon that I use. Gage says, should I worry about water in my return chamber of the sump that has a film on top? Looks like stagnant water. Should I put some kind of flow to help? It is always good to put some flow in there, some sort of a little small flow pump or something to keep that moving around. But chances are, if you have an ATO, your ATO sensor is in that chamber as well. And if you have it turbulent in there, it's going to make your ATO go crazy. Between just you and me, just the two of us, just me and you, mine looks the same way because I don't have a flow pump in there. It's got a little film on top. It's just biofilm. It's proteins. It's not going to matter much. But I do have a product that I am trying to design, or rather I should say I have an idea for a product that I'm going to be able to 3D print that people can get and help with that situation. I haven't finished it yet, but it'll be up on the Etsy store when I get it ready. Thank you for the subscription, Stephanie. So nice of you to do that. Thank you very much. Russell says, thanks for all the help. I'm glad that you find it helpful, my guy. Let's see. Jason's talking to Noah about refractometers. Tay says, I can't wait for these dinos to go away. Got started on the silicates and bacteria Monday. Unfortunately, Tay, and I hate to say this, but silicate dosing for dinoflagellates, that's 90 people in the stream. Very cool. I wonder if we could get to 100. We might.
Probably.
We could.
Usually we don't start even kicking.
No, no.
After an hour.
About halfway through, it usually kicks up. So yeah, nobody leave. Everybody's gay. Because the more people that are in the stream, the more YouTube pushes it out there. We get discoverability with new reef keepers coming in and joining the community, you know? Anyway, Tay, it could take months. And that's just the unfortunate truth of it. It may not, but it can. And that sucks. But hopefully it doesn't take that long for you. Which ones do you have? I'm assuming either Prorocentrum or Amphidinium since you're silica dosing. So, yeah. Jakes says the Higer 5-in-1 tester is really great testing pH and salinity. Higer makes a 5-in-1 tester? Interesting. I did not know that. I will have to look that up. Love from Brazil. Well, so glad to have you with us from all the way over there, which I know is not that far for you, but it's a long way from us. Steven says, I haven't tested my 230-gallon tanks in over a year. I do 12-gallon water changes every 6 weeks. Both tanks are thriving. Ecotech. That's very cool, Steven. Some people are able to keep a reef that way. Largely, it depends on what corals you have in there. I don't do water changes on my tank, but I do test every week because having a history of what your numbers are is very important when something goes wrong. Because let's just say you wake up next week and your corals don't look good. If you haven't been testing, you don't know what changed. So it's very hard to identify what's causing the problem and making the corals not look so good. But hey, look, there's a bunch of different ways we can do this. If you're finding success doing it that way, don't change it. Just keep on rocking and rolling. Oregon says 20% or 10% water changes weekly, 90-gallon system. The general guideline is 10%, but it's based on nutrient. So if your nitrate and phosphate are rising over the weeks, which is why you need that historical testing I was just talking about. If your nitrate and phosphate are rising, then bump it up to 15 or 20% a week. If they're falling, don't do one. Hold off on that water change. But if for the last few weeks, that's what you've been doing, and your nitrate and phosphate are also stable where you want them to be, then just continue doing what you're doing. If it's 10 or 12 or 15% or whatever it was, you know, stability is the thing that we're chasing, not the exact number. Now, there is a point in reef keeping where you begin to chase exact numbers, and that's where I'm at. You know, I'm trying to get my pH up to 8.3, keep it there. It's proving difficult in my environment for me to do that. But I also have a product coming that's going to help people out with that soon too. 3D printed one. So yeah, it really just depends on the status of the tank. You know, if everything's looking good and stable, just keep doing what you're doing. Hamilton says, happy reefing, everyone. Well, happy reefing back. Let's see. Ryan says, I use Elite. GPT said to use it for silicates because of the GFO. Yeah, I couldn't remember which way it went. I know one of them takes the silicates out, and I couldn't remember which one it was. Steven says to Oregon, 20 gallons once a month, big tank. All right, very cool. Who is this? Oh, that's Tim. What's going on? So when your name is green because you're a YouTube channel member in the chat, I can't read it because of my shirt. I have to move out of the way. Unrelated to the current topic, when first introducing acrofrags, how far apart would you set them, and can they be moved once they start to encrust? They can be moved, but it's probably going to break the base. That's not a huge deal, but you know, I mean, obviously, it's not ideal. but sometimes that you end up fragging the coral that way. You break it off to move it, and then whatever's left on the rocks grows into a whole new colony. I usually put them 6 inches or so apart. I want to leave room for my corals to grow out into big colonies. I don't want to have to start fragging them where they're the size of a tennis ball. I want them to get to the size, of like a cantaloupe before I have to start thinking about fragging. So I do 6 inches, sometimes 4, just depends. If it's a slow grower, I might put 3 or 4 slow growers together or something like that. It just depends. Let's see. Live to fly RC. Fun fact, I used to fly RC. Had lots of RC airplanes. Had to get out of that freaking, what was I trying to say? Expensive hobby, yeah. Huh? I'm limited to 2 hobbies, and right now that's reef tanks and fishing. By the way, I'm selling a bass boat. If anybody wants a 96 Stratos 282 bass boat with an Evinrude 150 horsepower V6 that runs 65 miles an hour, I got one for you. Enough about that. I'm thinking about altering my sump to switch over to a fleece roller. I have a 210 40-gallon sump. I would have to cut out the return filter chamber. What fleece roller would you recommend? Red Sea pretty much has the market for fleece rollers. There's a couple of other ones. Clear, KLIR, very good ones as well. Either one of those are going to be fine. I think there's some off brands too, but those are the two main ones. There was some fleece rollers at Reefapalooza. Man, I can't remember the name. It had 2 words in the name. We were literally right across the doggone aisle from them. And I just can't remember the name. That middle booth, straight across from us. Nature's Dimensions, maybe? That might be it. Oh, wait a minute. We got a super chat. How far down in the chat am I? Oh, kind of a long way. Let me go ahead and read. Let me hit the super chat from Kelly before it goes away. Thank you for all that you're doing for the hobby. I find myself with your vids on while tinkering with the tank. That's very cool. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. I really appreciate that, and thank you for the super chat and for being a YouTube channel member. That is very awesome and is appreciated more than you guys understand. Let's see. I don't have huge space to work with. That's okay. That's okay. Probably the clear. If you don't have a lot of space, I would probably go with the clear, or I think Nature's Dimensions might be that other company, and theirs seem to be really sleek. So check those 2, KLIR, and see about that. Now, if your sump uses filter socks, I was just seeing that there are some rollers that you can get that fit directly into the filter sock hole. So you might have one roller and it goes in that first filter sock hole, and then there's a plug for the second filter sock hole. So keep that in mind too. Don't just jump out there and buy anything. I think Clear are the ones that have them that fit into the filter sock holes. So check into those ones. Let's see. Tell me more about that there, please. Willie, I'm not sure what you're talking about, my friend. Could you be a little bit more specific? Steven says Clear might be the ones that use. Yeah, okay. So yeah, check that out. Put a small pump in each chamber. Good deal. Who is this? Oh, that's Hal. What's going on, my friend? Happy to see you here. And thank you so much for the YouTube channel membership, Hal. Hal is one of the moderators on our Facebook group, as well as Jay, that fellow who was in here earlier in the stream. The latest video you put out this week was awesome. Can you explain briefly why some of the harder coral you state in that video, like acro, are harder to keep alive? Yeah. All right, Steven, take it easy. Oh, I think you was joking. Yeah. I see the emoji now because I said everybody stay. Wow, I'm that far behind. I'm sorry, guys. I try to answer every single question. I don't want to skip anybody, so I get behind sometimes. So just bear with me. We're going to get there. And if you're asking questions or making comments, just give me a few minutes. Hal, so different corals have different sensitivities to different things. And it's a bit like humans. So, some humans can be out in the sun all day long and they get a tan, like my wife. Some humans can be out in the sun for 10 minutes and they turn red like a lobster, like me. I've already had skin cancer, had to be cut out one time right here. There's a little scar, which you probably can't see, right here on my neck. That actually came from a welding burn. I was doing some welding and my shirt was hanging like this, and my hood didn't cover it, and I got a 3rd-degree burn right here on my neck from the welding flash, and it caused a skin cancer, and had to be taken out. But yeah, corals are the same way. Not only are they more sensitive to things like PAR and light spectrum, but they're more sensitive to chemistry swings and changes in the tank. So alkalinity and pH moving around a lot is going to upset those more sensitive corals. Something changed. Hang on. Oh, the super chat popped away. Thanks again for that. But yeah, so it just boils down to some being more sensitive than others. Now, it goes really deep into biology on why they are more sensitive, and it's got to do with the microbiome that lives within the coral itself. There are different bacteria and dinoflagellates and other organisms that live inside the tissues of the corals. And there's different species and different ones and all kinds of different things in there. And those different things themselves are even more or less sensitive to chemistry changes and lighting and spectrum and all of that stuff. So some corals are like bulletproof. You could almost grow them in a saltwater mud hole. Whereas other ones, like typically Acropora, they don't like changes of any kind. They really get annoyed by that kind of thing. And some of it's got to do with where they're found on the natural reef, like rockflower anemones, for example, and zoanthids. One of the reasons that those are such hardy corals is because they're found closer to the shore in rock pools and places where the tide is fluctuating and the waves are crashing, and all of the dirt and the detritus and junk from the ocean is washed up into the shallows. So all of that crap goes into that shallow area where those corals live and thrive. So they're always exposed to changing lighting conditions and changing nutrient or high nutrient conditions and stuff like that. So evolution has made those the survivors of that area. And when we put them in our tanks, it's the same way. That's why people say sometimes that like zoanthids and torches and hammers, they prefer a little bit of a dirtier tank to Acropora. That's because they're found in a dirtier area of the ocean. The Acropora generally are further offshore in cleaner, a little bit deeper water. So there's a different coloration of lighting spectrum that's getting down there. It's all biology. You said quickly. That wasn't brief at all. But it was a very good question, and thank you for asking it. So I hope that helps a little bit anyway. Gage says, I want to try it out when you complete it. The filter sock holders you made for me are working wonderfully, by the way. Awesome. Filter sock holders. Oh, that must be for the JBJ tanks. Or maybe Sea Cardinal. Yeah. Tay says, you ID'd it as the Pro or Centrum. Okay, good. Yeah, I just want to make sure you were doing the right thing there. Kelly has the clear, but they're a pain in the butt to replenish the fleece, and the roll doesn't last but 2 weeks. I have 2 clears, and the rolls are $18 a pop. Interesting. So I make a product on my Etsy store for the Red Sea ones, and it raises the filter roller up. And by doing that, there's less of the fleece that's in the water at a time, and it actually increases the lifespan of the fleece. So I wouldn't be able to design and get anything printed now before I have to leave on Thursday, but you might consider seeing if anybody makes sort of a riser for it so that you could maybe raise it up a little bit, and maybe that would help you with how long your fleece rollers last. But yeah, it's definitely an expense. Noah says, can I dose all for Reef even if I only test alkalinity and not calcium? I have heard of people doing that where, I mean, all for, yes, coffee, yes. Amazing coffee, yes. So I've heard of people, so okay, let's back up a little bit. All for Reef is dosed based on calcium. No, excuse me, alkalinity. You set your calcium, magnesium, and alkalinity where you want them to be, and then you use All for Reef to maintain that level. So theoretically speaking, if your tank is experiencing balanced consumption, then using the Alpha Reef only based on the alkalinity number should keep the calcium and magnesium in line. That's a really big should, because it depends on how your tank is consuming those things. A healthy tank is going to consume calcium, magnesium, and alkalinity at a predictable rate. And there's a ratio where they all fall at a similar rate together. And that's how they designed Alpha Reef, is in these perfect systems. Your system may not be perfect. So I would recommend, if you were going to do that, at least a couple times a month, just check that calcium number just to make sure it's where it needs to be. It's probably not ever going to be far off, but I have seen it get too high before. So just keep an eye on it, really. 1.5 gallon daily automatic water change, 75 gallon aquarium. Right on. That's a cool way to go. What is the app you use to track your parameters? Reef Ability is the one that I would recommend. I actually don't use an app. I use a notebook and a piece of paper. I like writing things down, you know, that's just me. But the Reef Ability app is an excellent app. There are other ones. If anybody's using any, drop them in the comments. Lyle's going to be doing a full clean out next week on Monday night. 50% water change, cleaning the skimmer, return pump, and canister. You'll probably hear me yelling. Yeah, that's a big deal. Be careful when you do that. Keep an eye on your phosphates after you make that many changes. You could potentially see your phosphate spike, so just keep an eye on it. Thanks again for the nitrobiotic recommendation for lowering nutrients. Nitrates down from 70 to 7.1. That is awesome. I don't know if it was just that one thing or if it was the combination of everything that you were doing. Because I remember talking to you, and I remember your post in the group from the other day. It was an awesome post. What was I saying? Oh, I don't recall anyone else having that significant of a drop in nitrate from using nitrobiotic. I wonder, where's Connie at? Connie needs to be in here. Somebody call Connie. Tell her to get in here.
She's usually about an hour.
She's usually about an hour, hour and a half behind. So Connie will probably pop in here in about another 20 minutes. See, I get to know you guys. Y'all think I'm just a face on the other end of the camera, but it's not. I'm learning your guys' names and your tanks and stuff. There's a lot of them to keep up with, but I'm learning some of them. But yeah, that was a pretty significant drop. But you did well with that. So that's good, man. Oh my gosh, I'm just now getting back to the super chat. I'm so far behind. All right, let me try to speed up just a little bit.
A lot of it is people answering questions.
Okay, so it's just it's conversations. All right, that's not bad. I don't want to get 30 minutes behind the comments. When I use Fritz Turbo to cycle my tank, is the bottle of Fritz all I need? No. You will also need an ammonia source, which Fritz makes one of those as well. It's called Fritz Fishless Fuel. In short, you'll use the ammonia to add to the tank. Now, this is with no fish. This is a fishless nitrogen cycle. So you'll set the ammonia at 1.5 ppm with the fishless fuel, then add the bacteria after that, and that'll kick off the cycle. If you need more information than that, post in the Facebook group and we'll walk you through it. Do you run constant blue light? I'm trying to find the right brightness and time between the blue and white. So the way my profile looks is it's this way is probably better. It starts at nothing, ramps the blues and whites up, they go flat, and then they go down. But my whites only go up about 25% of the way. So yes, I run my blues the full length of time frame, which for me is about 11 hours. I run the white the whole time, but not nearly as at the same percentage. My tank pretty much looks this blue basically all day long, which it's a little less blue in person than you see on the camera, but not much. Lighting is, it's one of those things. It matters what lights you have. And just telling you to put them on a certain percentage isn't a good idea because they're all going to be different. Look up my video on Coral Lighting 101. Go to my go to my channel and check that out. That's 95 people in the stream right now hanging out with us. We're almost at 100, which would be a new record. I mean, the 95 is a new record too. But yeah, Kelly Wilson, thank you again for that super chat. I just passed it. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. Okay, so 2 30-gallon tanks. The only thing I do is a skimmer and dose kalkwasser, 500 milliliters a day. Dang. It's all LPS and some more forgiving SPS. Okay. So 250 mils a day between the 2 tanks. That's a lot of kalkwasser for those tanks. But I mean, your coral load, it's all skeleton stuff, so it could be sucking it up. Very cool. My 2 allotted hobbies are reef tanks and 3D printing. Both started because of you. Well, that's super cool, man.
I forgot about 3D printing.
Yeah, but I don't treat that as a hobby, though. That was always sort of a business move.
Well, but it used to be a hobby that then turned into a business.
I will respectfully disagree.
Okay.
She's right. Yeah, it's super cool. 3D printing and reef tanks go hand in hand, man. It's so easy. You know, you got a hose that won't stay clipped somewhere. You just design a clip and print the thing. You know, it's so awesome. Nature's Dimensions is the one that makes the roller I need for my Hello Reef. Yeah, so that is the name. Oh, God, I'm so far behind. All right, I'm going to get caught up, so I'm only going to answer like questions for a minute. Have the clear water movement in the rear chamber 3D print. No, not the water movement. It's a thing. I'm not telling you what it is. It's a thing that is going to allow us to have more water movement in the rear chamber, but not screw up our ATO sensor. I'm not saying anything else other than that. Nature's Dimension. St. Charles, what was the recommendation? Anthony, so he had super high nitrate, and what I had recommended for him was Tropic Marin Nitrobiotic. It's a bacterial product, little bottle. You get it, dose it to the tank. I recommended that he dose it at 3 times the rate that they recommend in their own dosing instructions, because I had heard of people using it, and they were for other reasons, but they were also, that's 101 people, everybody. That's freaking amazing. That is so cool. We've never had 101 people in my streams ever. That's freaking awesome. 102. Anyway, Tropic Marin Nitrobiotic. You know what? Let me try a clip thing. I want to create a highlight. A 49-second short was uploaded. Cool. So all I got to do is hit that button. Oh, that's so amazing. Okay, good. So I've got that button up now. Anyway, Nitrobiotic, Tropic Marin was dropping people's nitrate when they were using it for other things. So I am now recommending it as a potentially natural option, which I've had it do it to me too. I put it in this tank that's right to my left here that currently has dinoflagellates in it, and it dropped the nitrates by half, but I was only at 20. But anyway, so yeah, it definitely does do that. Acros hate dirty water. They sure do. Waterbox 65 in a couple of weeks. What is your recommendation for filtration besides the filter socks? So I'm real big on the Triton method of keeping a reef tank, which is mechanical filtration, a big protein skimmer, and a macroalgae refugium. That's the way that I like to keep my tank. It's how I've been doing it for the last 20 years. It's a play on the Berlin method, which was further from back in the day. Oh, wait a minute. We got somebody. Gage Daniel upgraded to the Clownfish supporter membership. Well, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate that. That is super awesome as well. So cool that you guys are willing to do that and help keep this thing going. So yeah, I would run socks and a skimmer, and after about 6 months or so with the tank being set up, don't do it too early on. Wait about, doggone, I'm having trouble. That coffee's coming. Wait about 4 to 6 months in. Let the tank stabilize a little bit, build some nutrients and stuff like that, and then add a macroalgae refugium. I do not recommend Chaeto, or some people call it Cheeto. It's Chaetomorpha algae, the green, hairy-looking algae ball. I don't recommend it. I don't like it. I don't find that it pulls nutrients out of the tank very efficiently, unless it's really a huge amount of it. I like Codium as the macroalgae that you could use for that. There's also Halomedia and some Caulerpas and stuff like that. There's a bunch of them that you could choose from. So yeah, that's how I would do it. been dealing with dinos and took your advice with the UV. Something crazy happened to the UV, caused the tank to heat up. Yeah, UV will do that. It's a really hot bulb. It can cause the tank to increase in temperature. It's definitely something you got to keep an eye on. I apologize for not mentioning that. If you and I were speaking about that, that's my bad. I should, and I will make sure that I mention that to everybody in the future. That's one of those things, like, you've been doing it so long, like you just forget, that sometimes when smaller tanks, things like that can happen, and I apologize. 25-gallon lagoon, finally started getting diatoms on the rock and sand. Any recommendations on cleanup crew? Not a fan of hermit crabs. Me either. I don't like hermit crabs. So yes, go to, not affiliated. I tried to be. They haven't answered me back. Reefcleaners.org, and get yourself some ox tongue nearite. That's 109 people. Very cool. Ox tongue nearite, regular nearite, which, by the way, did you guys know that regular nearite are brackish water species? They can do freshwater and saltwater. I didn't know that till like last week. You never stop learning, right? So yeah, ox tongue nearite, regular nearite. Get yourself a couple of chitons. Wait, it's a new tank. No, don't do chitons. What's the other one I'm thinking of? And some banded trochus snails. The banded trochus will breed in your aquarium, and they will create a replenishing cleanup crew. Also get some stomatella snails if they have those. They will also do the same thing. They'll replenish themselves in your aquarium. With the trochus, they breed based on the lunar cycle. So if you have lunar mode on the lights for your aquarium, you can set up a very low percentage lunar mode where it stays kind of off most of the month or very dim and then ramps up for a few days. It will trigger the banded trochus into breeding in your tanks. And it helps give you a self-sustaining cleanup crew. Do you think the AF-150 all-in skimmer is a gimmick? Just purchased it regardless. I don't know. I'm going to have to look it up. I don't have a way to look it up right now. I'll get my wife to look it up in a minute. We just have to remember to do that. What's up, Reef Master? Hello, Mystical. Nice to have you here in the chat. Thank you so much. Nightclaw says, do I keep my hermits from nibbling on my new zoa? So they're probably not nibbling on the zoa. They're probably nibbling on some algae or something that's around the zoa, or the zoa is dying and they're doing their job and cleaning up the decaying tissue. Hermit crabs generally don't eat healthy coral tissue. So I think there's probably something else going on there. However, there's not really anything you can do about it. That's one of the reasons I don't like crabs. All crabs, pretty much, with the exception of maybe a few species, are obligate omnivores, which means they eat everything all the time. 110, super cool. I'm kind of geeking out about that right now. So yeah, they're just opportunistic feeders. They'll eat meat, they'll eat corals, they'll eat algae, they'll eat decaying things. It doesn't matter. It's just the nature of a crab. It's what they do. They're like the water buzzards. They clean. I wish y'all could have seen my wife, man. That was funny. That was super funny. But yeah, they're like water buzzards. They're just going to clean things up. Okay. Trying to get caught up with you guys. Just bear with me. If pH is moving, is it a bad thing? Yes. How much bad swing? My tank goes from 7.7 to 8.1, 7.8 to 8.0 day to night. That's not terrible. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Well, let me rephrase that. I personally would be driven nuts by that and would be trying to do things to make it more stable, but because I'm a nerd and I try to do things like that. That said, your levels are fine. 7.8 to 8.0, it's going to be fine. You're going to see more growth in your corals up around 8.3, 8.4, but it's not a number that's really worth chasing unless you're trying to grow coral really fast and frag them. If you want to grow your corals a little slower, let your tank build out strong over time, yeah, your pH is good. I would just leave it where it's at. Can you talk a bit about brown jelly disease? I think my green trumpets might have it as a result of the dino battle. What is odd, the real trumpet 4 inches away seems great. So, Jason, instead of spending a whole bunch of time on that, I have an entire video on brown jelly disease on my channel. If you go back to my videos and scroll down a bit, I don't think that it was, yeah, actually I do. It could have been caused by the dinos. Brown jelly is a coagulation of bacteria. And so you could almost think of it just as like a bacterial infection. Well, really you could, that's what it is. It is a bacterial infection of a coral. That's why antibiotics work on it. But yeah, go check that video out. Really the best thing that you're going to be able to do if you have a coral that has that is take that coral out. And I make suggestions in that video for how to do that safely without spreading it around all over everywhere. Take that coral out, treat it in an iodine bath or even 2 iodine baths over the course of 2 days. And I would quarantine it in its own tank if you could. Usually you don't save a coral from BJD. It can happen. You can sometimes. But usually that coral goes ahead and kicks the bucket, unfortunately. You finally caught me live. What a time to be reefing. Well, that's pretty cool, Jacoby. Nice to see you here. I hope I said that right. Anyone run an airline from a protein skimmer to outside the house? Does it really work? Anything to consider? Yes, it does really work. Fresh air is one of the easiest ways to raise the pH in our aquariums. I'm working on a product to help with that. As far as your second question goes, that really depends on where you live. Yes, there are things to consider. One of the things that I have to consider here where we live is we have mosquito trucks that travel down the streets by our house. And I mean, it's 120 feet from the window that's by my skimmer to the road. If there's even a slight breeze, it's going to push that pesticide right into the intake from my skimmer. So I don't have an airline running outside because of that. So you have to think about those things. People love to say run an airline outside, but you need to be careful. If you have a house in the middle of Kansas City and there's not another house for 50 miles, that's one thing. But if you live in a city and you're on the 117th floor of a skyrise or something and they clean the windows with an ammonia product once a week, then you might not want to do that. You know what I'm saying? So just consider the environment around the air that's being drawn into your aquarium if you're going to run an airline outside. Now, what I have heard of people doing is running their airline into the attic, which is a little bit more of a protected space, but still has less CO2 in the air than in the home because there's not people living in the attic, hopefully. If there are people in your attic, I think you have other issues. Anyway, I digress. They've done that, and then I've heard people running an airline into an adjacent room where people don't go often. Like an extra bathroom or something where people don't go in that room very often. I've heard of them doing that too. But yes, it absolutely does work. Beans coralline algae has to be added. Can I get it bottled? Yes, Mystical, you can get bottled coralline algae spores. Purple Helix and Pink Helix are the brand that I have used before, and they seem to work quite well. You can get them on Amazon. Steven's talking to Kelly. A couple people are laughing at us, probably me. John uses aquarium note. That's very cool. Jake says, well, your shirt is fine. Hey, look, I put the right one on today so you guys can read it. Thanks again, Gage, for upgrading to that clownfish supporter. Let's see. Heather says, I'm brand new. Started my tank a month ago. Pistol shrimp, goby pair, first real animals. What fish can I add to keep things peaceful in a 32-gallon biocube? A possum wrasse would be an awesome addition. My wife loves possum wrasses. They're very cool little gray fish with 2 yellow stripes. Super peaceful. Usually they're going to eat like frozen mysis or brine, but they will eat little tiny pellets and stuff. Very chill fish. What else? Any of the cardinal fishes would be okay. In a 32, chill fish. You already have You already have a goby. You could get a blenny, like a lawnmower blenny. You could get a firefish. Man, I got the hiccups or the burps or both. So those would be some cool options. It's a little early in the tank's life to get any wrasses, WRASSE, but in about 6 months or something like that, you might consider getting like a fairy or a flasher wrasse. Those would be cool. Logan, the Dino Slayer, first of his name. We're watching Game of Thrones again right now. It's again. Yeah, it's like the 6th time we've been through it. My zoas were stretching for light, so I increased the photo period a little. How long should it be until they go back to a normal shape? They usually respond pretty quickly, within like a week or so. What's your opinion on Red Sea Blue Bucket? It's a great salt. You just have to mix it correctly. I used it for about a year here recently, like the last year. Yeah, it don't matter. Time frame don't matter. I used it. It's a decent salt. Just
no concept of time.
I have no concept of time, no. But yeah, you can absolutely use it. You have to mix it according to the instructions, or it could precipitate. So with Red Sea, I always mix it almost all the way to the salinity that I need with the water at room temperature. Then I put a heater in it, bring it up to 76, which is where my tank is at, and then I finish the salinity off. The problem with the Red Sea salts, especially the Coral Pro one, is if you bring the water up to 76 or 77, 78 degrees before you mix it, it wants to precipitate. And I don't know why that is. They have not said exactly why that is. It's got something to do with the chemistry in the salt and the amount of calcium, magnesium, and alkalinity that's in there. But both of them can do it, but it's still a good salt. Let's see. Reefing is not a hobby, but an addiction. Yep. I'm using 1,800 milliliters of caulk per night using a reactor, but debating to switching for all for reef. If you're using 1,800 milliliters of caulk per night, hang on, 1,800. Yeah, that's almost 2 liters. All for reef is going to drain your bank account. So what I would recommend, Kelly, instead, I have both a video on this and I have a blog on the website, a Reefing Insights blog on the website about ways to DIY ways that you can save money. In that video and on that blog both are recipes and instructions for DIY calcium, magnesium, and alkalinity supplements that you can get just food grade stuff, spend pennies on the dollar, even cheaper than caulk, which is already pretty cheap, but like Arm & Hammer baking soda for your alkalinity, stuff like that. So that's out there. But yeah, if you're going through that much kalkwasser every night, All for Reef is going to diminish your bank account. That stuff's pretty expensive. Just read a person waiting for a water box. Very cool. Very cool. This week's video, you asked which type of in-gold coral we would like to have. Back in the day when I was in the Hummy, had softies and LPS. My goal now are different color stylophora. That's going to be really cool. It would be, yeah, like a stylo bush in the middle of the tank with all the different colors. That would be very cool. I run both Chaeto and Codium. Got the Codium from the macro lady. Excellent stuff. Yes, me too. God, am I that far back? All right, geez. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to get to everybody.
We got a super chat.
We got a super chat. Oh, and we got a James. Thank you for the Copepod supporter YouTube membership. I really appreciate that. That means an absolute ton. Let me hit this super chat right quick, and then we'll get back to the main stuff. Rob Petrie in with the $10 super chat. My 15-gallon tank is great, but I have a bunch of bubble algae. I have 2 emerald crabs that eat everything except the bubble algae. Of course, right? Any ideas on how to get them to munch it? No, you're never going to be able to make them do it. But what I would suggest, if you want to try to go at it naturally, get a couple of pitho crabs, Pitho. Very cool crab, very similar to an emerald. I believe they might even be, no, they're not a Mithrax, duh, because they're a Pithos. different species, but they absolutely annihilate that stuff. They will go straight for the bubble algae. It's their favorite kind, and they will start chomping it down. Or also, you can do some manual removal. Don't be afraid to get in there with a tool, like a dental pick, like a metal dental pick with a little hook on the end, and just dig under the bottom of those bubble algae and pop some out. Usually when you do, most of them will float, and you can just take them out with a net. Don't worry about popping them. That's it. It's not a myth that popping them can make them spread in your tank. It's a half truth, because it can happen if the one you pop is sexually active. I don't even know if I can say that on stream. YouTube doesn't like words like that. Hopefully we're good. If it is in a state of sexual reproduction at the time that you pop it, then yes, it could spread. The spores could go out, and it could make more. It doesn't always remain in that state. So popping it is not nearly as big of a problem as people would like to say. So hopefully that helps. Thanks again for the $10 super chat. That means a heck of a lot to me. Apache says, just have to get all the tech and salt first. Still waiting for that part. Had the tank over 4 weeks. Yeah, sometimes it takes a while to gather everything up. Didn't realize the ones that I have in my planted tank is the same critters as my saltwater. It might be if you're talking about the nearite snails. Good Lord, I'm so far behind.
You're okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to get caught up. Caulerpa verde. All right, hang on. Verticillata. Okay. Is a macro that works very well in small volumes, very similar to Bryopsis. Okay, I'm going to have to check that species out. I haven't looked into it. Kelly says, look into the Tropic Marin carbon dosing. They have 3 different ones depending on your parameters, using the NP-Bacto balance carbon dosing, but adds phosphate backs, keeps them nice and balanced. Yep, Tropic Marin makes pretty good products. I can agree to that. How can I make pH more stable? You could add a CO2 scrubber to your skimmer. That's one way you can do it. Another way is to have a light on a refugium in your tank that is running an opposite photo period from your main display. So my main display runs in the daytime. My refugium tank, my 40 breeder on the other side of the wall, it runs, the light comes on at like 6 p.m. and it runs till 3 a.m. So having that light on that other tank or your refugium or whatever means that photosynthesis is still occurring. So CO2 is still being used up, oxygen is still being created by the macroalgae, and that's stabilizing the pH through that changing light photo period. Those are the 2 of the best ways. Just got back from the fish store night crew, night claw, sorry. Rob says, I have a 15-gallon tank full of healthy Gonopora, candy cane, Monty's, hammers, Duncan's, Blastos, okay? Have an orange Bauer Banky that's not thriving. That one's tough. I'm having a similar situation right now in my tank because my Micromusa and some of my hammers are pissed, but everything else seems fine. Even my super sensitive Acroporas are like, I'm loving life, bro. But my Micromusa and my hammers are mad. So sometimes it's really hard to dial it into the one coral. My pistol shrimp is snapping. With the Bauer Banky, you might try putting it in a little lower par. Sometimes they respond well to a little bit of a lower light environment, so you might try that. MC Reef says, Caulerpa prolifera, fragile, and halomedia, great for nutrients, grow faster, do well with a grow light and salt. Very cool. Thank you for that. Will coralline kill my zoas? It is growing right up to them and looks like it's trying to grow over them. So depending on what coralline you have, it could. Some doesn't really aggressively expand like that. But if you've got the kind that's like growing in like thick mats across things, it could. I would just get in there with a tool and just break it off away from the zoas, or pop the zoas loose. Let the coralline grow over that spot and mount the zoas directly on top of the coralline somewhere else. Somebody else likes possum wrasses. Very cool. Let's see. Lateralis. Tool. Nice. Have you ever lost a fish to an emerald crab? No, I never have. I have had emerald crabs clean up a fish that perished. But emerald crabs usually are much too slow and not aggressive enough to capture a healthy fish and eat it. All right. Stephen likes Fritz RPM Redline Salt. That's another good one. Sage is upgrading from a 20 to a 40 breeder. Currently 2 clowns, Royal Grama, 6-line wrasse, cleaner shrimp, coral. Would a Coral Beauty or Flame Angel be too much? It's a little small for those species, but it would probably be okay if they are the biggest fish in the tank, really. I mean, I think it would be all right if you had a swimming room and a lot of places for them to duck in and dive in and out of the rocks and stuff. I would really like to see it be a 60-gallon for those species, but 40 would be okay. And thank you for being a YouTube channel member. I really appreciate that. It's literally one of the main things that's keeping us able to do this. I'm a huge fan of Aquaforest Salt over Red Sea. Makes us much cleaner and less sediment. I agree with that statement. South African here says, Fritz, why does the industry make reefing sound so difficult and expensive? I got started easily and cheaply, 2 months going strong. A lot of that might be geographical. Things are very expensive here in the USA right now for numerous reasons that we're not going to get into. But in general, things in the saltwater hobby cost more than things do in the freshwater hobby. Lighting, for example, there's not really a light in the freshwater hobby that I know of that you would even use for any reason that costs $1,000. But we have several options in the saltwater industry of lighting fixtures that cost that much or more. So that being said, there are absolutely ways to get into the hobby cheaply, inexpensively. You can have a beautiful reef tank and never spend more than $20 on a frag. It's absolutely possible. It's not probable that most people would do it that way, but it can be done for sure. But yeah, I mean, it just generally speaking, it's a more expensive hobby because there's just more to it. I have been adding phosphate and nitrate to my bucket once I do my water change, stay the same levels. What is your thoughts? Name of the game is stability rate. Oh, okay. So you're dosing phosphate and nitrate to the new salt water you're making before you do your water change. That's absolutely fine if you need to do that. But if you're only doing a 10% water change, you're not dropping it enough with that 10% for it to be a problem. Just make sure that if that's what you're doing, that it's not slowly increasing over time. Otherwise, yeah, it's fine to do that. What kind of rock would, somebody was asking somebody else a question. Okay. Tim says, bake the Arm & Hammer baking soda to get soda ash. That then greatly increases your alkalinity, so much less expensive. Yes, definitely. Favorite house, Lannister is the correct answer, by the way.
I said Lannister only because Tyrion's the last one standing.
Yeah, Tyrion, yeah, I don't know, he's one of my favorites. I don't know, he reminds me of me. Like, he doesn't want to do anything to anybody, but if they back him into a corner, then he will. And I'm kind of the same way. I went Mosley deep sand, 1 rock and a tidal. Okay, a couple of you guys are talking. Hang on, let me get past that. Pithos crabs will eat your macros too. Yep, that's true. They sure will. Yeah, I actually thought about saying that a little while ago, but didn't. Thank you, MC Reef, for pointing that out. James says, have a 40 breeder, bare bottom, canister, skimmer. Canister is full of biohome marine media, well-maintained. Phosphates keep bottoming out while nitrate keeps climbing. I suspect it's because of what's going on. I guess it could be. I was going to say that I suspect it's what's going on inside your canister because it's basically become a cryptic zone in there. But that usually has the opposite effect where it strips nitrate because there's so many organisms in there converting the nitrate into nitrogen gas. But I guess it could go either way. It just depends on what the bacteria are doing inside that cryptic zone. Yeah, this is one of the reasons I don't like canister filters. 40 breeder, bare bottom, canister, and a skimmer. So You may end up in a situation where you're having to dose phosphate and do something else to reduce nitrate. It's really hard to say exactly what you should do. There's a lot of different options for doing that, but if your phosphates are bottoming out and your nitrates are increasing, those are two problems that you're going to have to solve. Probably running the skimmer wetter, even using the skimmer almost like an automatic water change to drain into a 5-gallon bucket. You know, you replenish the salt water as that drains into the bucket, you add more salt water back. You know, you might could do that. Tropic Marin nitrobiotic, we were talking about that earlier, will help drop your nitrate, but you might have to dose phosphate to offset it. Tim's got some Pithos in the 180. Cool crabs, yeah. Kelly says, last question. I hope you're still here, Kelly. I wanted to add a second 30-gallon tank for critters and macro. Is the one you recommend that would be like a plug and play to my current sump? No, there's really not. Unfortunately, you're going to have to set that tank up almost like it is its own thing. Just forget that it's even connected to the other tank. Set it up, run a drain into the sump and a different return pump from the sump back to that tank. And as long as your return pump is in the same chamber as the return pump that's in the sump, it won't mess with your water levels or anything like that. That's exactly how my 40 breeder is set up. But yeah, you just treat it like it's its own tank. Smoking a pork butt while watching the stream, keeping me company. Very cool. That sounds good too. Let's see. On your 3D printing, what software do you like? I model on Fusion 360 and I print with Bamboo Studio as the slicer. He drinks coffee and knows reef things. I should put that on a shirt. I really should. That's awesome. My kids got me a shirt for Christmas one year that says, I fix stuff and I know things. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Stark is my favorite house. Went through the heck, but ended up on top. Yep. Oh, are we caught up? We are caught up. Cool. Do you run carbon constantly in a saltwater hang on the back the same way as in a freshwater? I personally don't run carbon constantly in my saltwater tanks ever. I use it as a tool to fix a problem when one occurs. Carbon is there in our tanks to draw out toxins and poisons and chemicals and things that end up in the tank that we don't want in there. For like coral warfare, if they release their, I forget the technical term for the chemicals that they have, whatever it is, you get where I'm coming from. The carbon helps take that stuff out. But I don't have a lot of corals that are going to be competing with each other. Like I don't have leathers in my tank, which is one of the big ones that do stuff like that. So I don't generally run carbon all the time. I have been here recently because I'm trying to figure out why my micromucil and my hammers are mad. But having run the carbon, it's not helping. So I don't think it's a toxin. But I may end up having to do a more thorough ICP test than my Triton one to see if there's something weird going on in there. I don't know. Kelly, look at the Sea Cardinal 35. It's a Reef Rookie approved tank. Yes, Hal, that is true, but that would not benefit as a remote refugium because it wouldn't be connected to the sump. Those are all in one tanks. Triple O loves nitrobiotic. Yeah, I think it's a good product. Chat can cause the opposite problem, zero nitrates, but I do have enough phosphate. I need to use GFO sometimes. What is consuming the nitrate? 15-gallon bunch of coral, 2 clowns, tiny skimmer, and roller filter, maybe? I thought I was caught up, but I'm not.
You were, and then now we've got.
No, it's not. Okay. Oh, so I think you're saying what can cause the opposite problem? You don't have nitrates. You do have phosphates. Enough that you need GFO to bring it down. What is consuming the nitrate? 15-gallon with a bunch of corals. It's the corals. 100%. If you have a bunch of corals in a 15-gallon, they are constantly filtering the water and they're just sucking that stuff out of there. So you're probably going to have to start dosing it. I would leave the skimmer on and I'd leave the skimmer on and just start dosing nitrate. You can do that with Brightwell Neo Nitro, or you can DIY your own nitrate supplement from potassium nitrate or sodium nitrate. I have instructions on the video and the blog on the website, the Reefing Insight, talking about DIY ways to save more money. Lateralis says, bro's smoking a pork butt, and I'm over here burning weenies on a Weber. We are not the same. Still barbecuing, which I actually enjoy quite a bit, but we don't do it much anymore. James says, started dosing Neophos for PO4, thinking of a hang on the back overflow into a 5-gallon with macro, or possibly dosing vinegar. Carbon dosing takes forever. It does work well, but it takes a long time to begin working. But it could potentially be a good solution because it doesn't work as good on phosphate as it does on nitrate. So, I mean, yeah, if it's a little bit of a bigger system, maybe a nitrate reactor, something you can think about. I don't think I've ever ran carbon in my freshwater tanks. My leather and NIM, I run it all the time. Okay. Kimberly doesn't run carbon either, unless leathers are in the tank, says the Jakes. Yeah. What are the downsides to running carbon all the time? So there really aren't any, other than, it gets expensive because you should be replacing it weekly. And carbon dust has the possibility of causing head and lateral line disease in fish. So the more you run it, the more there's a chance that dust is going to be in the tank. Now, if you're running a good skimmer, if you're running good filter socks or other mechanical filtration and things, it's probably going to take it out. But it's a chance that you take. And carbon also absorbs in some ways some of the traces like iodine and fluoride, and some of the other components. I forget exactly which ones. It ends up absorbing some stuff that we want, is what I'm trying to say here. But it does help protect you against those other things. It's just a tool that we have in the toolbox. You know what I mean? Hi there. Big fan here. Well, thank you so much. How do we say your name? Dana? Dan Alcott. Gotcha. Okay. Just wanted to shout out after 3 months. Wait, also a 3-month-old tank. Leathers look okay. Xenia looking poor. Any suggestions? Start with your water parameters, man. At 3 months, the tank is still going through the ugly phase. It's still trying to sort of establish itself and everything, but always start with your water parameters. Check everything. Make sure they're where they need to be. Make sure nothing moved since like last week. That's the best place to start. Jason says, and I appreciate, thank you so much for your support too. I appreciate that. Jason says, appreciate your content on YouTube. So many other channels are thinly veiled commercials. Wishing you the best on the channel and the private Facebook group. Well, I appreciate that, Jason. Listen, here at Reef Rookies, we don't have any corporate sponsors paying us. So this live stream is sponsored by me. Go to my website, www.reefrookies.com. There's a button all the way at the top of that website where you can subscribe each month to a monthly donation to help keep Reef Rookies rolling, or you could do it here on YouTube through a YouTube channel membership. There's a one-time donate button. I offer consultations one-on-one, have a 1-month plan for a new or existing reef tank, and I also have a 6-month plan. If you want to meet once a month for 6 months and talk about your tank and make sure that thing's doing what it needs to be doing, we can do that. I also do 3D prints. We have the private Facebook group. I have shirts and merchandise and mugs and all that kind of stuff, and it's all found on my website, reefrookies.com. So go check that out. Oh, you want to put your email in at the bottom and subscribe too. We don't blast a whole bunch of emails and stuff out there to you, but we're going to be doing giveaways and things like that for various items, and that's how we're going to do that. So be sure to go and put your email in at the bottom. I don't think we've even sent a single email out yet.
It sends them out when we do the Reefing.
Oh, it does
blogs.
the Reefing Insights. So when we do a blog, it sends you a notification, but that's it. What would you say is a minimum tank size for a flasher wrasse? About 30 gallons. I would like to see them going to 40, but 30 is okay if you got a decently thick sand bed. Sometimes they don't go into the sand. Sometimes they'll go and make a cocoon in the rocks, and that's fine. But yeah, I would say like 30 gallons is absolute minimum. I'm still smiling ear to ear watching my first saltwater fish, a striped blenny, swim around the tank. Just got him today, and he's already colored up. Very cool. Very cool. That never goes away. I still smile. Something. I hear a noise. I don't know what it is. Oh, well. Let's see. They're over here barbecuing, and I'm doing tank maintenance on 11 tanks and have to mow 3.5 acres today, too. Dang. We all have choices that we make in our life. You've made some choices there, my friend. Do you need to run filter socks? It's not required, no, but you absolutely could. I do. I would recommend it. Yeah. You know, it's going to take a bunch of particles out of the water, a bunch of not dissolved organics, undissolved organics, you know, fish poop and, you know, broke off pieces of macroalgae that die and things like that. And, you know, just particulate matter. It's going to take it out of the water for you. So that's always good. Sure thing, Dan. Absolutely, man. Happy to have you here with us hanging out in the stream. This has been the most active stream that we've had so far on the channel after doing these. I usually do these every Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time for anybody who's here and has never been here before. Next week, we're not doing one. We're going to be out of the state, so we're not doing a live stream next week. We'll pick it up the week after that. Be right back here doing the same thing all over again. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, click the button. I'll wait. Waiting. You did it? Okay. Here we go. What are your current thoughts on budget par meters available on Amazon versus the $600 Apogee? Is there a preferred budget option? Yes. I actually have the third rendition of the Dano Plus, which is about $125. And I have to test it against the Apogee, but I'm having trouble getting my hands on the Apogee right now. It's a friend of mine, and both of his vehicles are in the shop right now. He lives an hour and a half away from me or so. But once I get it, I'm going to do a video on that. But if you want to go back on my channel, I've done 2 previous videos on the 2 previous versions of the Dano Plus. And it's a situation where good is good enough. It's good enough to get us in the range where we need to be. You know, most of us are not keeping $10,000, you know, cold water Japanese acropora, things like that, where, you know, par values would have to be really dialed in because they're a deep water coral. So they don't get much light, but they need the right kind of light. Most of the stuff we have, as long as it's between, you know, 75 and 300, you're going to be okay. And that meter is good enough to get us within the range of being good. The rest of it after that is just going to be reading your corals and seeing what they need. How do you properly put filter floss into your printed baskets? Only the top of the floss is collecting. The rest of it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Am I packing it too tight? So actually, no, you are not. Mine does the same thing. So as one of the changes that I've made to some of my baskets is I've actually made them quite a bit more shallow. Some of them I don't want to do that because of different reasons or whatnot. But yeah, mine do the same thing. I cut my filter, I use the quilt batting stuff, not the freeform stuff. So I cut it into strips about a foot wide, and then I just sort of accordion layer it in there. You can pack it too tight. You shouldn't have to force it down in there. The weight of the water is going to pull it down in there anyway. So just pack it in enough so that it's fluffy and there's a little bit of resistance, and you're going to be okay. I wouldn't worry about it making it dirty all the way through the filter media. It's still catching stuff, even if the water is floating above it and it's trickling down through. That's fine. It's still catching it. But yeah, just make sure you don't pack it too tight. But that's how I do mine. What critters do you recommend for GHA? I have trocha snails and a few turbos, probably the elevated NO3 feeding the GHA. Probably is. Those animals are good. nothing eats GHA when it gets really long. So the best thing that you can do is add manual removal into your routine. Rip it out as much as you can, get as much of it out of there as you can, because all the cleaners don't want anything to do with it after it's about an inch long. When it's shorter than that, they'll eat it, but they really don't mess with it much when it's very long. So add some manual removal in there and you'll start to see a difference. Some use a fleece roller. Oh, you were talking about the socks. Julio says, hello, brother. I love your channel. Just have a weird problem. Torch, coral, hammer, frog spawn, tang, clown, everything doing well except zoanthids. Yep, happens all the time. Zoas can just be pissy like that. I've got a frag of stratosphere zoas in my tank that are not happy, but I've got other zoas right down here, some rastas and blue lagoons. They're doing just fine, so it's just that absolutely can happen. And sometimes it's really hard to know why. Incredibly hard to know why sometimes. And sometimes they just close up and they never open up again. That's just the nature of a zoanthid. It's what they do. Turtle says, best nano protein skimmer. Trying to find one for the Fluval Evo. 2 recommendations. Bubble Magus Mini Q. There's 2 different versions of it. I'm not talking about the wide one. I'm talking about the skinny one. That's a really good little small skimmer. And Ice Cap makes a K1 Nano that looks really nice as a small skimmer. So check those out. Gage says, can you do maintenance on my tank too? Yeah. Nah, that's probably not going to happen, my friend. Don't hold your breath. Out here watching the pork. Well, look, looking ain't cooking, man. Quit watching the pork. Leave it alone. It'll be fine. Go take care of the tank. All right? Nightclaw says, my tank is a Red Sea 130, 34 gallons, like the Flash Erastus, but seen mixed minimum tank sizes. Yeah, I mean, 34 gallons is okay. It would be better if it was like a 34 long, but I mean, it'll be all right if you just have one. Let's see. I got the yawns now. It's because I've been talking for an hour and 40 minutes without breathing. I'm finally upgrading my bow front. I'm in Louisiana too. Do you recommend any plans or local builders for tank stands with a sump area? No, not really. Really, one of the best things that I've ever had is this tank behind me. It's sitting on a steel stand, a powder-coated steel stand, and the wood on the front is attached with magnets. So I can take the entire wood face off the stand. Now, you got to have 2 different fabricators involved in that. You got to have people who can build and powder coat the steel stand, and then a cabinet maker or a millwright, millwork carpenter. Yes. God, that was hard. I said millwright, but that's not what it is. It's a millwork carpenter, someone who deals in trim work and carpentry and like furniture fabrication. They can build you the skin for the stand, or I mean, you might could do it yourself. But since you were asking, I figured maybe you don't have the tools and stuff. But it's just a wood skin that goes around that I can pop off. It's magnetic, but unfortunately, no, I don't know anybody that I would recommend locally. Sorry about that. When I run my lights a bit dimmer, my torch hammer look more full. Does that mean they are happier or struggling? Usually happier. Torches and hammers, frog spawns and stuff, they don't need a huge amount of par. About 100, maybe 125-ish is all they need. In fact, some of mine that are up here on top of these rocks are bleaching because when I swapped over to the Delua lights, now they're getting about 50 to 75 par, I think. I haven't measured it, but I think they're getting way more par than they were used to, so they're starting to bleach on me. So yeah. Don't blast them too much. Willie says, well, that was fun. Just caught a 10-inch Oscar out of thin air because the big dummy decided to launch himself at his food. Oscars do that. Yeah, my dad used to have some Oscars in a 125, and they got huge. The biggest one was about 3 pounds. It got so expensive to feed them that he was just going and like dipping crawfish and minnows and frogs and things like that out of the local ditches because we live in Louisiana. And he was feeding that kind of stuff to them, and they ended up with a really bad parasite. We didn't know what it was, and it killed them. I was very small at that time. In Manu 162, I want 3 tangs, a yellow, a whitetail, and a tomini or blue. Advice says add the tangs at the same time, but also like 70% of fish say add. They can't all be last. It's stressing me out. So don't stress out, okay? People recommend adding tangs last because if you put them in, they're going to establish territory. And when you add smaller fish, they could be mean to them. I have never gone through that sort of mindset or whatever. I add whatever fish I want to whenever I want to. But with tangs, one of the best things that you can do is put them in a hang on the side or hang on the back acclimation box for 2 weeks. And yes, I know it sounds, not great for the fish. They'll be all right. It's going to be a little stressful to them, but they get used to the smell and the sight of the other fish in the tank. And you can make sure that they're eating and not being outcompeted for food for the 2 weeks that they're in there. You're going to have a ton more success with lack of aggression and the fish assimilating into the population of the new tank. Much better if you do a 2-week acclimation of those fish. And that really kind of goes for any fish, but especially for tangs. Bullet nano skimmers are really good. Hang on the back. Okay, I haven't used one. Cool. Jason says, I just joined as a member. I don't know if it shows in the feed or not. Yeah, no, it didn't pop up in the feed, but you do have the badge. So I think that it worked. And thank you so much for joining as a member. I really, really appreciate that. It means so much to us. It really does. We would like to keep this channel corporate sponsor free. That would be the goal. But ultimately, we have to earn dollars somehow. And if we can earn enough dollars from the people who are willing to support the channel for us to be able to not do corporate sponsorships of any kind, that would be the way that we want to go. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to try things out. Delua Lights or the Triton Trace Element program or things. That's not what that means. I'm going to do those things, but that gives me the ability to do them and always remain completely objective, not ever giving these companies the opportunity to say, well, we're paying you, so you kind of need to say it like this. No. If your thing sucks, I'm going to say it sucks. Okay? That's just the way it is. And I have said that some things suck. So you guys know that I'm not fibbing on that. But anyway, thank you so much for the YouTube channel membership. It means a ton. Let's see. Red rosy minnows and decided to make them their buddy and fight the other fish to protect them. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. What is the option on cleaning the glass? Better to leave some film on there for the cleanup crew and pods or clean daily? Also, PSA, watch for the sand. Nothing worse than all the scratches. Yeah, my tank actually does have some scratches in it too. Little sand getting caught in the magnetic cleaner, things like that, I don't clean the back glass. I leave the back glass natural. Whatever happens back there is what happens. That's no man's land on the back. But yeah, I always clean the front and sides either once or twice a week because, we want to keep it clean. We don't want coralline algae growing. Getting that coralline algae off can sometimes scratch the glass and things like that. So yeah. Indian Cat says hi. Well, hello. Thank you for those questions, Jason. Cookbook Divas. Well, that's a cool name. Hello from Seattle. Oh, I think I know who you are. Maybe. I'm not sure. What are your thoughts on Delua pixels for SPS 15-inch deep shallow reef? I think they would be a good choice. I think to get maximum coloration from your SPS, you would probably want to pair them up and run 2 pixels, 1 reefer, 1 fragger per zone of the tank. That's going to give you a more spread spectrum. That said, I grew that bird's nest right there, that's probably 8 inches across, it's this big around, which is about the size of like a teacup saucer, maybe a little bigger than that. I grew that in the wine glass tank under a single Delua Pixel reefer coloration. If you've never seen my wine glass tank, let me turn the camera. Wow, that's really tight. Hang on. Loosen that up. That is my wine glass tank. It is about 2 feet tall. It's got a single Delua Pixel light on it. It's full of pulsing xenia. There is a red digitata and a purple stylopora in there, and a harlequin shrimp. So I set that tank up a couple years ago. It's been through a couple different sort of renditions or formats or whatever, but that's it. That's it now. Pretty cool thing. Was that a Costco giant wine glass? No, this one didn't come from Costco. Let me see if I can zoom into it. This one didn't come from Costco. This is, sorry about the flashy screen. There we go. So this is a wine glass that came from a wine company. It's a crystal type glass. My wife had a consignment store, and a guy brought it into the consignment store to consign it. And I had mentioned that I wanted it, and then she got all sneaky and told me it was sold, but it was actually sold to her, and then she gave it to me for my birthday. Was it my birthday?
I think it was our anniversary.
Or our anniversary?
Yeah.
Can you give me some more coffee? Thank you. Okay, let me zoom out. I'm gonna turn this back over here. You're gonna have to give me just 1 minute because I got to get up and stretch. It's been an hour and 45 minutes. The Jake said tank tour. Let's go. Oh yeah, we forgot to do the tank tour. So, all right. So let me hang on just a minute. What is your favorite fish in my tank right now? We'll talk about my favorite fish. Okay, I do have a favorite. I didn't think I did, but I do. We'll talk about it when we do a tank tour. Do you have a dedicated saltwater mixing station or mix in a barrel as you go? Maybe a video on basic mixing station designs. Interesting idea for a video. I haven't done one on that. I just use a barrel. I got a 55-gallon plastic barrel that I have when I need to mix water. And that's what I do. Thank you. A fish room tour where all the magic happens. Yeah, we can go see those things. Oh, I bumped the tripod. Hang on just a minute. Let me go around here for a second, and then we'll do a tour of all the things. I'll even show you my tank that looks like absolute crap right now. All right, let me get my lint. Oh, well, it's been charging for a couple of hours. My phone was almost dead when we started the live stream. Here we go. Yeah, Hal, stick around, man. We're gonna do a tank tour. I'm gonna get this phone off of here. Yeah, I hide you, baby. Okay, so let's go start with the wine glass tank. Or actually, we'll start with the... So we got a new beta. This is him in his little planted freshwater tank. He is a double tail, and his name is B. Nanner, which stands for Broderick Nathaniel Anners. So that's his name, B. Nanner. And it's just got a couple of other little freshy fish in there, some little dwarf cories, nearite snail, little planted freshwater. So that's our freshwater doohickey there. Don't start cleaning up the room. No, it's a mess. Don't worry about that. You will see the mess. So close up on the wine glass. I don't see the harlequin shrimp. He's usually in the back, but oh, there he is. Right there. Say hello, my guy. Harlequin shrimp. Pulsing xenia, looking amazing. So here's the thing, right? I don't know what the water parameters are in this tank. I couldn't tell you. I know the salinity is correct. and everything else must be good too because the corals look fine. I never test this tank. I don't do water changes in this tank. That is the secret to these small tanks. You have to let them establish their own biome. People try to mess with them far too much. And I think that's where people may be going wrong with nano and pico tanks. People always say, oh, you got to stay on top of the water changes. That may be true if you're trying to do stuff like have fish and whatnot in them. But there's nothing in this tank that eats anything other than the harlequin shrimp. I mean, there's algae, this is like macro algae or like green hair algae growing up here, but it's not on the corals and stuff because this little tank has established its own microbiome. So anyway, that's Montipora digitata. That is a purple stylo. I mean, look at the polyp extension on that thing. It's happy as it can be. I even have SPS growing down here in the sand. There's bubble algae right there. Whatever, I don't care. It's fine. If you look back there, which is hard for you to see, back there on the heater, there you go. There is a piece of green bird's nest growing on the heater. So yeah, anyway, pretty cool thing. This is a little 5-gallon that I have starfish in, chocolate chip starfish. He's in there somewhere. I don't know. He feeds the harlequin shrimps. But anyway, big tank time. Okay. So I'll show you what's going on in the tank. We'll talk about my favorite fish first. Here he is. This guy, chalk bass. I really like that dude. He's just really cool. He's really neat. So current status of my micromusa is big mad. I don't know why. I can't figure it out, but they are super pissed. But I have a blasto right there doing great. And like the Duncan's fine. My acropora are looking good. Everything is growing. My Pavona looks fine. My Australian gold is fine. This dude's good. Feather duster's fine. All these are all fine. This is a Bill Murray right there. That's a snail. That's a stylo, frilly acro. It's just, sometimes things just get mad and there's really not a reason. I mean, look at the polyp extension on this acropora. If the tank was truly messed up, that thing would not have polyp extension like that. And like that bird's nest back there looks great. But my friggin' micromusa is super pissed. I honestly think they're just getting too much par. And like, here's another example, right? There's a picture right there of two hammers. One looks great and the other one doesn't look great. They're 3 inches apart from each other. And they're not messing with each other either. It's not like sweeper tentacles or anything. They were fine for a long time and then they're not. And here's my world famous like flower anemone. So anyway, Tim likes the rock work. Very cool. I'm glad you guys like it. I had a lot of fun putting it together. It took me about 2 weeks to build this rock structure in this tank. So let's go around. We'll go around this way and I'll show you the sea cardinal that looks like absolute crap right now. It's got dinoflagellates. It's got green hair algae growing in it. Everything is not always perfect in every tank. I'm trying to get this tank back using nothing but natural like sources. I'm probably going to end up having to put a UV sterilizer on this thing. This tank is absolutely nasty right now, but it just is what it is. Yeah, Hamilton, it could just be the high par. You're talking about why those corals are mad? It very well may be. I forgot to show you a coral. Hang on, let me go back. So let me put the lens back on. So if you take a look at that Favia right there, that dude is not having a good time. And a few weeks ago, he was fine. But that is a Project X fungia plate, 6 inches from it, that looks absolutely amazing. So and that's a clownfish. But so it's just weird how that works sometimes with corals, where some are perfectly fine and perfectly happy, and some are just absolutely super pissed. Yo, what's going on, Damn Dollar? Nice to see you here. A wild person has appeared. So let's go around. This is the fish room. It's currently, well, it's a little better than it was. But yeah, big mess in here always. Tons of old equipment just hanging out. An entire locker full of product. And this is Command Central over here. So this is, that's a carbon reactor for when I want to run carbon. And right now I am, because I was trying to see if there was a toxin in the tank. And this is my CO2 scrubber. Goes down to the skimmer down there. I'm cleaning these pumps in citric acid, so that's good. And then all of my doser bottles. Let's see the printer set up. We can go in there. So yeah, check it out. So some of the stuff that I 3D print, these old school BRS dosers, I print a thing to hang them on the wall. These bottle mounts for these Triton style bottles, but they work with a lot of other bottles too. I 3D print those. I make this shelf for the Jabo DP4, which mine's currently not hooked up. But yeah, so there's that. This is my refugium, which is connected to the sump and the main display. They both connect to this sump here. And it's just, the lights are off because it runs on opposite schedule. And it's very dirty because I don't clean it. It's a refugium. So just whatever is happening. But the reason that I don't clean it are these guys, little stomatella snails. They're everywhere. Look, I mean, well, it's hard. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's a ton of them in here. They're all over it. So anyway, look at the coralline algae growing on this thing. Absolutely nuts. It has 2 Dilua pixel like plant growth lights. I got bubble tip NIMS just going everywhere. But anyway, this is Command Central for the big tank. So okay, you want to go see the printer room? We'll go see the printer room. I'm going to point you at the floor for a second. So this is Reef Rookie's headquarters back here in my office. There we go. We lost internet. Anyway, Bamboo's doing their sales. I'm about to have a 4th one here real soon. But so anyway, that was that. I'm going back in here to make sure we stay connected. Yeah, I'm having connection issues. I don't know why. All right. There we go. Put this back. Plug it back up because I don't want to run out of battery. And ta-da! We're back. Get back up on my stool here. Scooch it over. I don't know why it got darker, but whatever. And I'm going to get my coffee. Now, let me go back and take a look at these questions. Let's see the printer setup. Okay, we saw that. Love clownfish. Thank you so much. I like them too. They're black storm clownfish. One of them, the female, that one right there, she has a little bit of a swimming problem, but she's been that way for like a year. And I mean, she's eating good and she swims around the tank just fine. She's not getting any worse, but I think she might have a little bit of a swim bladder thing. Let's see. Who is this? Wild Man. Thank you so much for being a YouTube channel member. I really appreciate that. Question. If I was going to automate my reef, what would be a good system to use? Would love all the bells and whistles, but which could you build off of better? So really, there's really only 2 options in my mind. It depends on what you want from your automation. If you want an ecosystem that just runs your lights and pumps and skimmers and stuff like that, Dilua makes a good one. Red Sea is a good one. Anything that runs on the Mobius app is also good. If you're talking about water testing, currently the best thing on the market is a Neptune Apex with a Trident for calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium. And I think it's called the NP for nitrate and phosphate. It'll test those as well. That's the best thing on the market right now. Of course, hydros is also an option, but they don't have the same capability for testing those same things as Neptune does. They're working on something called the Maven that is going to do that, but it's not released yet. It's still in beta testing. So if you're in the market right now, you want to like get something now, Neptune's probably going to be the best way for you to go. If you want to get control of your aquarium and you can add testing later, hydros is also an option for you. James says, if your nitrates are low, like 3.5 to 4, okay, I have a 327 90 sump large fuge, 120 SPS. Just added 5. I'm confused. James, did you say something else? Did I miss? Nope, you said hi. I'm not sure what your question is, James. Let's see. I've got hundreds of stomatella snail babies in my tanks. After the lights go off, they go everywhere. They do. They go absolutely all over the place. What would you recommend, 2 RL90 or 3 AI Prime 16 HD for the 300 XL? Well, the AI Primes are going to be a little bit of a better light, but you're going to get more par from the pop blooms. I would also recommend that you look at Nicru as a lighting option. Delua is a very good option if you want to spend a little bit more money, but you want like lifetime warranty on your lenses and diodes and stuff. It's what I'm running on this tank behind me is Delua X4s. I have lighting recommendations on my website. If you go to my Amazon product recommendations list, you can find those. The website is reefrookies.com. So go check that out, see what you think. But of those two choices, I would probably go with the RL90s personally. How do you feel about adding a school of black bar chromies to a reef tank? I want something to add movement. Saltwater doesn't seem to have a lot of schooling fish options. So I probably wouldn't go with those. If the tank is sufficiently big enough, I would probably instead look at the scissor dartfish. They tend to be a little less aggressive, and they don't have as many problems with pathogens like Uranema. They can still get them, of course, but that might be a little bit of a better option for you if you have the space. Been watching your videos. Thanks to you, I've learned a lot. Well, absolutely, man. I appreciate that, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us today for the stream. Is it difficult to pair two different clowns? If they're different species, yes. So like if you were going to put Percula in with maroons, they're probably not going to get along that well. So Percula and Ocellaris sometimes do okay together, but if they're both Ocellaris or both Percula or both maroons, you're going to have a better shot at pairing them up that way. It just, sometimes it's hard either way it goes. Could you make a nano matte roller for a Nano Cube 28? Unfortunately, that's not something I've dug into yet. There is a guy, and I don't remember his name, who 3D, he designed and 3D prints and builds a little nano matte roller, but I don't recall the name. However, if you contact Elliot at Sea Cardinal, SEA Cardinal, he is selling those, I think, on his website. So check that out, seacardinal.com, and you might be able to find what you're looking for there. Jay wants to know, what is the temperament of the chalk bass? So they are very mild-tempered. They swim around the tank a lot. They're very curious about what's going on in the tank, but they're actually really chill fish. They don't usually mess with anything. They are voracious eaters. So they're aggressive in that manner, that they're going to really go after the food in the tank. So if you have super timid fish with them, they might get outcompeted a bit for food, but otherwise they are super cool. I really enjoy them. I've had one almost in every reef tank I've ever had. How fast to raise nitrate? No more than 1 ppm a day. Just take it up kind of slow. Don't go crazy with it. Just go slow with it. 1 ppm a day is fine. You could probably do a little bit more. It would be okay, but I don't like to move anything around very fast. Nicro has great color and are cheap. Yep, they're pretty good lights. Ever look into the Smat Farms? Yes, I'm looking to get those from my 90. The Smat Farm lights, they are pretty good. They don't have the spectrum or the power that the Nicros have, but they're still a decent light, and a lot of people have them on their tanks and are running the tank just fine. Sorry, let me take a bit of a speaking break here and get a cough drop. So I'm not really sure, CC or C Cates, I'm not really sure where you can find those syringes, and especially those pink tips. I don't know where they source those from. The easiest way to get them is just to get a new test kit, unfortunately. But I mean, you're going to use that test kit up anyway, so you could just get a new one, save the reagents, till you finish the first one, and there you go. Any 1 milliliter syringe will work because you're measuring volume. It doesn't matter what the syringe is as long as the volume is correct. But that pink tip does affect the overall total volume. So I would go ahead and I would get it from Saltwater. What's the best fish to start with? But I'm in Australia. Don't know if that matters. I don't really think there is a best fish to start with, to be honest with you. I have a video on my channel about some fish that beginners should absolutely avoid. But I mean, clownfish, cardinal fish, firefish, scissor dartfish, gobies, blennies, basslets, grommas. Those are all good fish to start with. They're all going to be fine. I don't know why my doggone, y'all hang on a minute, because this is annoying me. My phone is so dark on my end, but I think, yeah, it's just me. Okay, it's not the video feed. It was just my phone went into a dark mode. I couldn't see anything. All right. So Hal says he has both and prefers the Nicro by a lot. Well, that's good. Thank you very much, Hal, for saying that. John says, great show as always. Is Saltwater good enough for reading pH? It's hard to judge 8.15 and higher, or go with Hannah. I don't mind the Saltwater. If you use the Saltwater and it starts to have any blue in the result, in the test result, then it's higher. It's on the 8.3, 8.4 range. If it's a very dark emerald green, you're around the 8.1, 8.2 range. That change to blue is really what you're looking for. Not really blue. It'll be like a blue-green, So I think Saltwater's okay, but I've got 20 years of experience in reading the Saltwater kits. So, and I can distinguish colors very well also. The Hannah digital meter is definitely going to be easier. You just got to make sure you calibrate that thing. Weld made it. Very cool. Nice to see you here, Weld. Daily Dose of Fragrances, what a name, says, I was going to do a 20-gallon nano. I was going to have a firefish, royal gromma, watchman goby, and a pistol shrimp. Is that okay? Yep, absolutely. Great plan. Love it. You should do that. Love the Facebook group. Thanks for that. The group is a godsend. Well, I appreciate that, Weld. We actually got quite a bit of pushback from many people who were pissed that we made that group private and made it so that businesses and pages cannot join the group. But ultimately, that group is a space for learning. Of course, I'm going to try to sell my products and the things that make us money here at Reef Rookies because we own the group. But, we got a lot of pushback on people from people about that, but not from anyone who is there for the education.
We're 75 away from 5,000 members in less than 2 weeks.
We're 75 members away from 5,000 in less than 2 weeks. So it brought over all the active members from the public group, and we're adding about 50 people a day. We've gotten past the big major push, but Would you put scissor tail in the tank if I already have firefish? Yes, especially since it's 150 gallons. I don't think you would have anything to worry about. Yeah, I would add some for sure. Have you checked out Tom, the reefer, on YouTube? His 10-gallon nano has the craziest hammer growth. I've not seen him because of how busy we are and all the time and prep work it is for videos and stuff that I make. I really don't have a lot of time to consume content, which kind of sucks because there are some channels that I really enjoy watching, but I don't have much time to watch them anymore. We're just always so busy, especially for the last couple weeks, moving the group and all that. We have been crazy. But I'll have to see if I can take a look at it. Have you noticed chunky stuff in the DKH reagents? For the Saltwater kits, I have not seen that. If you have chunky stuff in the reagents, that's not good. It would make me think that maybe something weird's going on. So I don't know if I would trust those. Sharp Edges had scissor tails in with firefish and no issues. Very cool. Willie says, what night crew for a normal 90-gallon? There are about 50. Yes, that's true. So it's a standard 90-gallon. I would probably, you always want to go with more light than you think you need because you don't want to be limited later down the road as your experience level increases, that you can't keep the more difficult to keep higher par corals. So for that tank, I would recommend 2 of the Nicrew Hyper Reef Gen 2 200-watt lights. Get the controller as well. And I would appreciate it if you went and got them through my website because I would get a little kickback. Jeff Bezos would have to send me some money. Go to my website, reefworkers.com, Amazon product recommendation list, go down to lights, go down to Nicrew, and then you'll find the Gen 2 200 watt. That's what I would run on that tank. Now, you're going to have to run them at a lower percentage for now because they're really powerful lights. But as you grow as a reef keeper, you start keeping more, stuff that requires higher par, you will be able to just increase the lights instead of buy new lights. So that's what I would recommend for you. Battling dinos currently. Tank kind of looked like the Cardinal, but more on the sand and rock. Did a UV and a blackout. Looks normal. Numbers still bottomed out. What next? Don't black out for dino flagellates. That's really not what you want to do. What I would recommend is getting microscopic ID of which dino flagellates you have, because that's going to determine how you treat them. I know that sucks, and it sometimes requires people to have to buy a microscope, but you really can't know which ones you have and how to treat them properly without a microscope. You have Hanna nitrate at 0.1 and phos at 0. Right now, today, order yourself some Brightwell Neo Nitro and Brightwell Neo Phos, because you're going to want to start dosing nitrates and phosphates according to the instructions on those bottles, and get your nitrate up to like 10 and get your phosphate up to 0.1. And along with that, start dosing some good bacteria to the tank. I would recommend Tropic Marin Nitrobiotic. Now, that's going to consume nitrate, so you'll have to offset it. You're going to have some work to do here, but you can get it back. But knowing which ones you have are going to be the first step, really. Usually the pissed off people are mad that you're doing something right. Yeah, that's kind of what we thought too. I wouldn't get them any other way. Everything I get for that tank is going to be off your page. I appreciate it, Willie. That means so much, man. That's one of the easiest ways that y'all can support the Reef Rookies mission without actually spending any money directly with us to do it. I'm an Amazon affiliate, and I get a little kickback from my Amazon links that are on my website. So anything y'all get in there, it helps us tremendously. I have an 8-gallon nano, a 5-gallon display, BTA Duncan coral, 6 different kinds of zoas, 2 pallies I want to get rid of, pink tip bird's nest, 3 akin. Dang, that's a lot of stuff in a little nano tank, and millions of pods. Well, that's good. Who is this? Jason. says, do you think we will ever see wild tangs again? There's a long video showing how it is sustainable and gives jobs to fishery. Yeah, the fisheries, the fishermen. Yeah. Some of the captive bred ones seem to be a bit like the cast of Deliverance. I honestly don't know. That is a pretty big topic of contention right now. The fisheries are saying that it is sustainable. You're correct. That taking the fish out of the ocean for the hobby is sustainable. I personally think that the push towards aquaculture is good, but we need more people doing it so that there is genetic diversity. I mean, we all know what happened with the dogs, like dog breeds, right? All the interbreeding and all of that stuff. You end up with tons of genetic mutation that is not good. It's one of the reasons why German Shepherds have hip problems and Golden Doodles have all the problems that they do and things like that. So I think aquaculture is the future of the hobby, but the information needs to be shared among the top level people who can do it so that we end up with more people doing it, so that more fish are getting flip-flopped genetically, so we don't end up with just like yellow tangs that just all of them have weird mutations in a 1-year lifespan. You know what I'm saying? I'm hoping all that makes sense. Trying to turn off my pumps and things for a 10% water change. Couldn't figure out where my phone went. So, like carrying your phone around while you're looking for your phone. Yeah, I feel you. Hand dosing. Well, you probably have to with a tank that small. Gage is having trouble with the Hannah nitrate reagent getting stuck in the packet. What do you do, or do you recommend? Okay, yeah. So it's actually in the Hannah instructions, I believe. The way you cut the packet, makes it into like a little cup almost. And then what I've seen people do is they take a little portion of the volume of water that's going to go in the vial and they put it in the packet, almost like when you mix instant oatmeal, they have you use the little packet the oatmeal comes in to measure your water. They put some of the water in the packet, use a little toothpick, plastic or something like that to swirl it around in there and then pour that water into the vial. That melts the reagent and it gets it into the vial where it's supposed to go. Maybe you could try that out. That might help. In my test kit organizers that I sell for the Hannah test kits, if you get the calcium one, and really I should include that toothpick in all of them. That has just occurred to me. I 3D print a little plastic toothpick that goes with the calcium test. But I need to include that on all of them. I'll have to make that change after we come back from Reef Retreat. But yeah, there's a little plastic toothpick in there that you can use to dig the little reagent granules out of the corners because it is very specific. You need to get them all. Da-da-da. Okay, so when I looked in the little scope, it looked like I had Ostreopsis. Okay, so the only thing that's really going to help you with Ostreopsis is a correctly sized, that's very important, UV sterilizer. What you should be shooting for is 1 watt per every 3 gallons of tank water, and your UV should be pulling water from and returning that water to the main display area of the tank. It is less effective to have it on the sump or running in the sump or in the back chamber or whatever like that. But it's not to say it's not going to work at all. It's just less effective. So those are some tips for that. Having a hard time finding a dosing setup for my small tank. Hand dosing kind of sucks. The only thing that I would recommend for a tank that small is if you can get a 1-to-1 doser. So BRS, like the ones I showed in my fish room, BRS used to make them. They might still make them. And it's 1 milliliter per minute. And you run it based on time, but then you also need to have a timer that is very specific. So I run mine from my Hydros, and I can set it to run in like 1 minute, 15 seconds if I want to, and but what you're looking for is a doser that can do very small amounts. And you're right, they are hard to find. Most of them do like a milliliter a second, like my Jabo is almost a milliliter every second, whereas those BRS ones are a milliliter every minute. When they kick on, They don't go blah, 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 like this. They kick on and that thing goes like super slow, like a stepper motor, about that quick, right? It's so slow, but it's super accurate. So that's why I'm using those for what I am. Let's see. That's why they stopped selling Cocker Spaniels for about 15 years. They were so inbred, they were getting, yeah, okay. Should I add copepods while reestablishing my tank? After the nitrogen cycle, yes. Bulldog Reef, we have a code RRWL15, like Reef Rookies with Logan, RRWL15. You can get 15% off your order at Bulldog Reef. Dinkins Aquatics is a good place. Pod Your Reef is an okay place. I have a code there. It's just Reef Rookies. I haven't used any of the other places. KMP Aquatics is also a good one. That's a team of a couple of women that run that business, and they run everything, very small organization, but everything is super clean, very healthy and all that. So, but yes, after the nitrogen cycle, once your ammonia is 0, yes, add some copepods. James, it moved my thing. Hang on. Our Reef Octopus Classic hang on the back skimmer with the external pump. Can you soak the entire pump in vinegar water to clean it? Yes, you can. It's be fine. Yep, no worries about that. I've done that before. I switched to using the DIY alkalinity supplement. My store bought a supplement, had trace elements. What do you recommend for trace elements? I use the Triton Master Your Trace Element program. It's Triton Labs, MYTE. So that's what I use for my trace elements. They're basically, I ICP test the tank once a month, and I send it to them. I draw it, they test it. I send it to them, they test it, they mix up 2 bottles of trace elements for me. They send me those bottles, I hook them up on my dosers, and I dose it to the tank. That's what I do. I get all my trace elements that way. There are other ways to do it. There are many other trace element programs. Reef Moonshiners is one. Captive 8 is another one. All for Reef does trace elements. What's the other thing I'm thinking of? Salem Clemens just dropped Easy Trace on the market. It is a powdered trace element thing that you get. You mix it up, dose it to the tank. Super easy. It's basically impossible to overdose it as well. So check on that. Those are some options. Oh man, Brandon, I'm sorry, man. We've tried to put that information out in several different places, but it never seems to make it to everybody.
It's on the website.
Yeah, it's on my website. Down at the bottom on their little thing, the code is there, but I mean, it's hard to make sure everybody, is notified. You can never have too many pods, Weld. I wouldn't worry about that at all. What are your thoughts on the Kello Ray reef lights? I have not seen those. Can you look that up, baby? I need to come take a look at that. Well, since the comments have slowed down just a little bit, I'm going to take just a quick little break on my voice while we look these lights up. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'm coming back. I'm going to go look at these lights right quick. So wholesale Kello Ray fanless. Click down there.
This one?
Yeah. LED, go down. Go down. Let me drive.
Yeah, you drive.
I'm gonna drive. Just hang on. Let me drive. Public aquariums in China. It's got a nice looking sort of 4x4 layout. So there's a YouTube channel, Danny Reef, D-A-N-I Reef, has taken a look at them. It looks like it might be, maybe it's Italian. I don't know. Here we go. Wait, cool white, royal blue, sky blue. So they got a lot of colors. Deep red, uses Cree LEDs, 200 watts per fixture. Yeah, I mean, looks like they have an app, so you can use the app to dial in the lights and everything. The royal blues go all the way down to 455. The blue skies are 465. The deep red is 648. Okay. So, I mean, they look like pretty good lights to me. I haven't tested them or anything like that. Okay, here's par values. So distance at 30 centimeters. It looks like they're able to put out an incredible amount of par. So right under the light is 1800. Of course, that's not in the water. Yeah, they look to be very powerful and have a good spread on the spectrum and stuff too. So, with that being said, just that quick little cursory glance, I would say that it's probably going to be a nice light for you. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing about them. I hadn't even heard of those yet. Looks like a new light on the market. I keep forgetting to set a 3:30 a.m. alarm to watch your lives. Oh man, goodness, that's early. That is early for sure. Oh, hang on. It moved my chat. Cleaning my glass and knocking the wet side. Ugh, arms in the tank. Yeah, I hate getting my arms in the tank. I'm using Smat Farm 60 watt on the 8 gallon. Well, that's a pretty powerful light for an 8 gallon. It'll work for sure though. Which is better, Alpha Reef or Red Sea Reef Energy AB Plus? Or can they both used at the same time? Those are not the same thing. Those do two different things. So Alpha Reef is a mixture of elements, both major and minor trace elements. Calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, fluoride, iodine, bromine, stuff like that. Red Sea Reef Energy AB Plus is amino acids, carbohydrates, proteins, and other nutrition. So those two things don't do the same thing. They can be used at the same time. But I would tell you to be careful with the AB Plus. You can easily overdose the tank and create a bacterial bloom or other nutrient issues, nitrate, phosphate spikes, and stuff like that from overusing that stuff. Most tanks don't need aminos, carbs, and proteins, especially if you have fish eating fish food and pooping in the tank. You probably don't need that thing. My GSP island closed up and has been over a week and has not come back. Parameters are all good. Other corals are looking good. Hey, look, it happens. I hate GSP for that reason. It can make you think something's wrong with your tank even when it's not. However, it's hard for me to judge when you say parameters are all good because they may be good in range but not in ratio to one another. If you want to type your parameter numbers out in the chat, we'll take a look at them real quick. Jason says, can you run a tank without dosing or is it inevitable at some point? So you have to plan the tank for that. It is possible to have a tank that doesn't require dosing if you're doing regular water changes. Usually that is a softy reef. Anything that has skeletons like LPS or SPS is going to consume calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium, and you're going to have to replace it in some way, be that water changes or dosing or what have you. You're going to be doing some maintenance to replenish those elements as they fall. But softies, really, they don't have a skeleton at all, so they really don't draw up calcium, magnesium, and alkalinity. They will a little, but not to any appreciable degree. So it is possible to keep like zoas and pallies and pulsing xenia or other soft corals like mushrooms, stuff that doesn't have a skeleton, and you won't have to dose that tank really, if ever, especially if you're doing 10% weekly water changes. But once you start adding stuff with skeletons, it is really an inevitability at some point that the corals are going to overcome the replenishment of those elements by water changes. And eventually, if the tank grows out enough, you're going to have to start dosing at some point. But like I said, it just depends on mostly what you put in the tank. Low intensity on that light weld? Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Does a tank still need to cycle if I must use Aquaforest biosand and seeded live rock? So it's kind of a yes and no. When we set up a tank, the nitrifying bacteria still have to colonize every surface in the tank. That's part of the nitrogen cycle. But if you use live rock that's already alive, which usually requires it to be wet, and live sand that is alive with bacteria, then you don't typically see the nitrogen cycle, so we call it, on the test kits. The nitrogen cycle, as defined by the word cycle, is always going. It's a population of bacteria in the tank that are always there, converting ammonia into nitrite and nitrate and eventually nitrogen gas, which escapes from the aquarium. What we're doing when we cycle the tank is we're establishing that population of bacteria into the tank. So if you use real live rock and real live sand, those bacteria are already there. So we don't see the sort of spike in ammonia, spike in nitrite, because the bacteria are already there to do their jobs. I think really we need to get away from this mindset in the hobby, freshwater too, where we cycle the tank and then it's done, because that's not actually how it works. What we're doing is establishing the nitrogen cycle, which continues on forever. It's some specifics in the verbiage, but that's where that mindset comes from. Will it still cycle if I use live rock? And technically, it's still got to grow the entire population on all the hard surfaces, but because they're already there, it's already somewhat established. I hope all of that made sense. In short, if you use real live rock and real live sand, no, you typically won't see the cycle, the establishing of the nitrogen cycle on your test kits. I think that made sense. I'm getting fed up with my Duncan. Hasn't had full extension for a month. It still comes out and eats. Yeah, I got pissed off corals in my tank right now too. If you're not able to get your friend's 510 anytime soon, I have an Apogee 650 I can ship to you for your video. You got to ship it back, of course. Well, I'm supposed to meet up with him very soon, like in the next couple of days, and get that thing. But like I said, his car is in the shop, so we'll see what happens. At what temperature is it too high to ship fish and softies? It's hot here. I tend to not try to order anything to be shipped if the ambient temperature outside is over 80 degrees. Because anything past 80, you're probably going to start seeing some real problems with those animals as what's in that box begins to warm up. I know that's really hard and it doesn't always have a problem, but that's kind of my cutoff. I feel like my small tank cycled overnight, 2 days, no clue why. Yeah, it just depends on how much bacteria was available. Do you ever use Reef roids? I bought it as overfeeding didn't help get my nitrate and phosphate up. I've dosed P and N to get it up, but wondering if I should keep dosing the roids. So I never, ever, ever dose Reef roids as a way to increase my phosphate. I have used it and it will do that. But I always use it for its intended purpose. If I want my phosphates to come up, I make a DIY solution of sodium phosphate dibasic, and I dose it to the tank that way. Recently, my doser made a gravity siphon in the dosing bottle and took my phosphates all the way up to 1.0, which I'm currently bringing back down. But I don't use it for that purpose. Yeah. Is it normal for a feather duster to randomly drop its duster, that's called the crown, just to start growing a new one within days? Plus, where the heck did its duster go? I don't know where it went. it may have been consumed or went into your filtration or something like that. It's going to decay pretty quickly in a mature tank. But yes, they do sometimes drop their crown. It's a defense mechanism, so you might have a fish or something that's kind of picking at it and nipping at it, and it'll drop that crown, and then it can grow a new one. Yeah. Weld added bacteria first, then ammonia, and also used Caribsea sand. I feel like it was a really soft cycle. It could have been with live rock. Yeah, it could have been. Fastest I've ever had a tank with dead rock cycle was 4 days, but it was a small tank. Actually, it was the wine glass tank. I took the ammonia up to 1.5, and I dosed Fritz Turbo Start 900, Microbe Lift Night Out 2, and Microbe Lift Special Blend, and Imagitarium Biological Booster from Petco. All 4 things. I put them all in the tank, and but it finished the cycle in 4 days. It was really small volume. I crammed it full of bacteria and ammonia, and it did what it did. I can get natural seawater from the Bass straight and filter it through a 100 micron filter. I know some of the stores here use it and sell it to customers. What does a salt bucket have that natural salt water doesn't? Nothing. The only thing that it is going to be higher in trace elements and stuff, most likely. Yeah, so. But it doesn't have anything that the natural salt water doesn't have. However, what we have found is that the natural salt water is sometimes it's lower on elements and stuff, so the pH won't be quite right, or like the alkalinity will be down around like 6.5, stuff like that. So, but a lot of people use the natural seawater, so it's just one of those things. 25 minutes. 25 minutes. Yeah, I'm getting pretty tired. Gage says, had a 150 up and running for about a month and a half, nitrate 8.5, phosphate 0. What do you recommend using to raise your phosphate? I make a DIY solution. It's the absolute cheapest way to do it. You can get Loud Wolf sodium phosphate dibasic from Amazon. I've got a link, I think. Yeah, we did the supplements and additives one. Yeah, on my website, reefrookies.com, Amazon product recommendations, supplements and additives, and then find the phosphate one. You can get a bottle of that. It'll last you absolute forever. You mix 3 grams of that stuff with 1,000 milliliters of water, and that's enough to bring the phosphates in my tank, my 250-gallon system, up to 0.1 for 200 days. So, it's going to last forever, but that's what I do. I've got instructions on how you can do that also on my website under the Reefing Insights. There's one that is all about DIY ways to save money while reef keeping. You can find the instructions in there on how to mix it and all that stuff. That's what I would do. If you don't want to deal with all that, you can just get Brightwell Neophos and dose that according to how they say to do it. Yep, a lot of bacteria plus the sand and the live rock. I just use all for reef right now. I don't use anything else. I'm scared to nuke my tank with pallies in it. I would get rid of the pallies as well, to be honest. Yeah, just be careful. Wear eye protection and mouth protection and gloves and all that. Man, I'm tired. That was a lot of talking. What's going on, Nick? Nice to see you here. Right on, Gage. I do appreciate everybody hanging out with us for the stream. This has been the most active users in the stream that we've had since we started doing this. I used to stream on TikTok, and I would go for 6 or 8 hours sometimes. That was brutal. I don't know how I actually ever even did that, because it's crazy to think of now, but that was what we used to do. How can I get rid of the pallies? Flush them. My local fish store won't take them. Unfortunately, yeah, you just throw them away, whatever. It sucks, but that's the best way. Or you could try to find like local groups. Some people might want them, I don't know. James says, the fastest dry rock sand cycle for me was seeding with Aquabiomics Gulf sand. Similar benefits as Lac of Rock minus the hitchhikers. Yeah. That's some pretty good stuff. Demetrius says, happy Sunday. Always appreciate you for what you do. Well appreciated. Thanks. I appreciate you and all of you guys for everything you do. We have had several people sign up for YouTube channel memberships during the stream. That's really awesome. Had a couple of super chats come through. That is super awesome as well. Hopefully we had a couple people go over to the website and sign up to support that way. Button all the way at the top of the website. That's super cool too. And at least one or maybe even two Etsy orders came through. I saw them pop up while we have been doing the stream. So that's pretty awesome too. And my coffee's cold again, but I really don't want to drink any more coffee because
we always do that on Sunday. We drink coffee streaming, and then both of us are wired.
Yeah, can't go to sleep. Yeah, I hate it too, Weld. You know, I hate it too. You know, but sometimes, I mean, there's just some stuff that people just don't want to take. And unfortunately, that's the reality of it. Gage, that's very nice, man. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that so much. Look, there's one thing that I do that is a little bit different from what the other people in the industry do. I'm not calling anybody out here, but I keep it 100% real with you. That's why I'm not scared to show that tank right there that it's absolutely full of Ostreopsis dinoflagellates right now. The more that I show you guys that I'm walking the walk, the better it is for you and me and everybody. You know, I mean, I don't have anything to hide. Reef tanks have stupid shit that happens to them sometimes. What you gonna?
Tank is a prime example.
This tank back here, I've had to reset this tank 3 times in 5 years. You know, it just is what it is. Does anything besides dinos bubble during the photo period? Oh yeah. There's micro algae that'll grow on the rock that will during photos. Well, let me put it this way. Anything that does photosynthesis and respiration is drawing in CO2 and releasing oxygen. If you want to go down a really cool sort of biology knowledge thing, go look up cellular respiration and start reading about that, right? That was one of the things I studied in college. And that's where pearling comes from. You see it a lot in freshwater, not so much in saltwater, but it can happen in saltwater too, where the plants in freshwater tanks will be releasing little streams of oxygen bubbles. It looks super cool. And it's because they are taking in CO2, doing respiration and releasing the oxygen. So anything that does that has the potential to make bubbles, right? So microalgae, film algae, turf algae, dinos, diatoms, bacterias, certain ones like cyanobacteria, all of those kinds of things have the potential to create and release little oxygen bubbles. And that's why dinoflagellates do it too. But I think, don't quote me on that one. I don't even know if I want to say it. I don't remember if they take in CO2 and release oxygen or the other way around, the dinos. I don't recall. But they do, man. Yeah. Let's Weld said, I love this dude. Thank you so much. More people need to do that. Yeah, the more honest we can be, the better. I mean, look, I get it, right? If you're like Instagram personality or whatever, you know, you want to post the pictures, the algorithm rewards engagement. So you always want your fish tank pictures to be absolutely perfect. Look, I get it. You know, I'm a content creator. I understand how the algorithms work. You know, you put a bad looking tank on Instagram, it's not going to do anything. People are going to be like, oh, your tank looks like crap. All engagement's good engagement. Just saying. But I agree with you. You know, there's a lot of people that will say one thing and do another thing. I tell you guys exactly what I'm doing. I appreciate the kind words. Well, that's awesome. Why do you think my acans are not growing? I target feed them and they have polyp extension, but no growth. I assume that you're talking about Micromusa lordhowensis, like acan lords, not acanthoa, a meat coral. And really the main thing is Micromusa really like dirty tanks. I think that's one of the reasons that mine are kind of pissed off right now is because my tank is pretty clean. I'm keeping acros, I'm keeping my nutrients down. My dissolved organics are pretty low. And so I think that's why my Micromucil are kind of pissed. They really like it a bit dirtier. My Micromucil were doing the absolute best when they were in my frag tank, which is my refugium now. It was a frag tank. The nitrate was 50 and the phosphates were 0.5, not 0.05. They were 0.5. The Micromucil were growing like crazy. And that is the hard thing to deal with a reef tank, a mixed reef. You know, if you're going to have acros, which like it super clean, in a tank with Micromucil that like it dirty because where they come from, you know, rock pools and stuff like that. It's a difficult balance that you have to strike. So I'm actually trying to get my nitrate up to about 15, which is usually too high for Acropora, but we'll see how it goes. They're at 10 right now, and my acros look good. And I want to get my phosphates up. Well, I want to get my phosphates back down now to 0.1. They were at 0.03, which was very low. But then the mishap happened with my dosing equipment, and they went all the way up to 1.0, which is way too high. So I'm bringing them back down with lanthanum chloride. But see, again, why would I hide that? You know, me telling you what happened to my tank and what I'm doing to fix it is good for you all to know too. So there's no reason to hide that stuff. Little tiny bird, he's so cool. The little bitty gray one. He was on the bird feeder.
I don't feel bad.
He was like this big. What were we talking about? Oh yes, Micromucil. So yeah, the dirtier tank sometimes, you know, makes them grow much faster. Let's see. Do I let my overflow? Wait a minute. Question. Do I let my overflow slightly into the emergency drain or just below it? A bit of noise when I get it just below the edge, but not much. You can let it just barely trickle down that emergency drain. That's fine. You just don't want it to get to the point where it creates a gravity siphon, you know? But that is how the bean animal overflow works. It's got a primary gravity siphon, and then the second pipe is a trickle overflow where the water overflows it, but capillary action keeps it stuck to the outside of the pipe all the way down. And then the emergency is completely out of the water just in case. Herbie works kind of that way too, the Herbie drain style. So it's fine if it's just going over just a little bit. Got some pearling going on with the Bacopa plants. That's cool. How much would you worry if sunlight was hitting the tank? I can't put it anywhere that doesn't happen. Not at all. Some of the coolest looking reef tanks I've ever seen have sunlight hitting that tank sometimes. Now, if it's beating the tank down all day, that's going to be a problem. But if it's just moving across the tank, like in the morning it gets a little sun or in the evening it gets a little sun, that's going to be fine. Your corals are going to love it. Have you ever considered setting up a peninsula tank? Love the idea of all the coral real estate and viewing space. They come with their own challenges, though. Yes, they do. If you want to talk to somebody about the challenges of setting up a peninsula tank, jump into the Facebook group and tag a fellow by the name of Albert Angulo. I hope I said that right. He's got a peninsula tank. Basically, you have to buy enough corals for 2 tanks because you have a viewing all the way around the rocks, you know? I don't really have a good spot in my house to set up a peninsula tank, so I haven't done it. Yeah, we could do it right here, huh? We could, but I've never had one, but they are really cool. 50? Yeah, my nitrate was at 50. My phosphate was at 0.5, yeah. Bryopsis algae is a pain. Fluconazole is one of the only things you're going to find to be able to kick that and get rid of it. Keep my nitrate 15, phosphate 0.05. Everything is thriving. That's good. Retep just got a first blue hippo. Very cool. Oh, man. I was trying to buy lights through your link. Too many options for me. Oof. Ginger, if you want to send me a DM on Facebook, I'll talk with you a little bit. We'll pick the right ones for your tank, and I'll just get you the exact link you need. Yeah, I'll be happy to do that for you.
Or she can email. I just put it in there. If she's not in the group, I don't know if she is not.
I think Ginger's in the group, but I'm not sure though. Actually, I don't know at all because I think Ginger is their name. Anyway, yeah. If you want to send me a message, we'll discuss it. Choices, and more choices. Yeah. Have you ever thought of doing a section on there for what gear you'd put on tanks? Well, that's kind of what that section is. Like all of that stuff that I have listed on my Amazon list, it's all stuff that I would recommend. It's not everything available on Amazon. There's a lot of stuff that I did not put on there because I wouldn't recommend it. But unless I'm I just spilled my dang coffee. Dang it. Unless I'm misunderstanding your question, I need to just put this down because I'm done with it. But that is kind of what that is it's all the stuff that's on Amazon that I think is high quality, or at least enough quality that I would be willing to recommend it to someone. And honestly, most of those things I actually have recommended to people before. So
like a full build
like
a kit.
Full builds. It's interesting that you bring that up. I walked away for a second. Sorry. You guys can obviously see that. It's interesting that you bring that up because one of the things that I used to do is I would do like tank build outs for people with a list of Amazon products that they would need to get for their tanks and stuff. I can build idea lists and put them on my main Amazon storefront and also share them as a link to the idea list. So it could be something that I could do where I could put together something like you have a BioCube 32, here's the products that I would use, or like a JBJ 65 Tideline, here's what I would get and use. It's possible for me to do that. It's a lot of freaking work.
Put it on the list, though.
Yeah, it could be added to the list. The notebook we have that is a list of things that we need to do.
I'm adding it now.
It's just so hard because there's so many different kinds of tanks, and it's possible to set them up in so many different ways. It's really tough to make those kind of recommendations sometimes. I got to get some water. Hang on. We got just a few more minutes left in the stream, everybody. We got about 8 minutes left, and then I'm going to have to go. My throat's killing me. We got to get some dinner going around here and all kinds of other stuff. So let's see. I want to see those dudes back there eat. We can do that. I haven't actually fed the fish today. Tell you what, I'll just stand out of the way. There we go. And then I got a couple more questions I'll get to in just a second. These guys love to eat. This is Easy Reefs by DKI Marine premium pellets, and my fish go nuts for these things. There they go. Even my bang-eye cardinal fish that would never eat anything but frozen, he eats these pellets. And look, I know this is backwards, but you can see what's going on. So this is what I use. These were sent to me. They sent these to me for me to check them out. This is a very, very, very good food. I like this food a lot, and my fish do too. They go absolutely crazy. I'm almost out of this bigger bottle. And I'm probably going to go ahead and just order myself a big bottle of this stuff because the fish really like them. And my fish are fat and healthy and don't have any problems. This is all natural stuff. There's no fillers and crap in here. We looked at the ingredients once on stream before. Aquatic invertebrates. It does have glycerin in it. Fish oil. A couple different types of macroalgae. Condus crispus and ulva lactica, which is ulva lettuce. Isochrysis and tetraselmis, which is phytoplankton, and phaedodactylum. Two other types of phytoplankton, and that's basically it. So this is basically macroalgae and phytoplankton in pellet form. So it's good stuff. The fish like it. I give them a couple different kinds. This Easy Reefs line, they have SPS food that's a powder, and they have LPS food, which are little tiny pellets that you can just suck up with a pipette, and it works really well. So, okay, let me go back and answer these last few questions, and then we're going to get out of here. I have a 16-gallon BioCube, 4 months old. My alk is 9. Nitrate a little over 5. Phos is not reading. I use a skimmer and a little bit of ChemiPure Elite. I would probably say to take the ChemiPure out, and you might end up having to dose a little bit of phosphates to the tank. You could use Brightwell Neophos for that. That would be okay. Could even do it as a budget or high-tech build list. Possibly, yeah. How should I get phosphate up? First time watching. Well, thank you so much, Tiff and Rick. Okay. Well, thanks so much for being here. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Go to my website, reefrookies.com, and find our Facebook group. It's a private group, best Facebook group on the internet for reef keeping. Most respectful place you'll find. Join us there. As for your phosphates, one of the best products that you can get is Brightwell Neophos. It's super easy to dose. The instructions and the formula are right there on the back of the bottle, and that will get your phosphate up where you need it to be. Let's see. A 3D printed Paragon roller filter. Okay. Nice. Do you leave your filter and skimmer on during feeding all the time? I do. I don't change anything. I don't put it into feed mode. My pumps stay on, all that. The fish got to go chase their food down. You know, survival of the fittest. Go get it. Nick said, what plastics for 3D printing are safe in a reef? PLA is fine, but it's going to absorb a lot of water. It could crack over time. I use anything that goes in the tank and gets wet. I use PETG, PETG is what I use for that. I think you can use ABS as well, but don't quote me on that. Dig around on that first. There's a couple of lists online where people have done some research into it, and you can find what are safe for reef aquariums. But I just use I use PETG for anything that's going to touch the water. It's been fine. That food is always sold out. It's because it's good stuff. It's good stuff. You could probably find some at Biota. I'm going to check that out. Let's see. What is the best fish for a cleanup crew like a tang, but in a 30-gallon? Probably a lawnmower blenny is probably going to be your best bet. There's not really a tang that I would recommend for a 30-gallon, not even a small tang. You know what you could do? If you're looking for that sort of rock picking action to pick the rock algae off the rocks and stuff, you could get some saltwater converted sailfin mollies. Yes, like the freshwater mollies. I have one in my refugium. They can be converted to completely marine, and they pick at the rocks. They're like really good for that. So you could get like 4 or 5 of those, and you could go that route. That's Redbeard's Reef back there. James says, have a good time at Reef Retreat. Thank you very much. We are going to be exhausted. It's 2 whole days in a classroom type of environment. It's not like a show. It's all educational. It's one presentation after another all day long. But it should be good. PLA dissolved over time for me. Yeah, it's going to break down over time. You can use ABS, but don't use it unless it is an enclosed printer. Because, oh yeah, no, if you're printing ABS, it has to be enclosed, and you also need to have filters on it, like HEPA filters or hopefully an exhaust fan, because it releases toxins while you're printing. Okay, everybody. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and call it. Thanks so much to all of you for hanging out with us for the stream. At one point, we had 110 people in here, which is absolutely awesome. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. That's one of the easiest ways that you can support. Watching the videos when they come out all the way to the end is another way. Join the Facebook group. Check out the website. If you need 3D printed type stuff, I offer that kind of thing. You can get shirts and other stuff. You can find the Discord server, all that kind of stuff from the website. So with all of that being said, I am done. My throat is cooked. I'm kind of hungry. We need to make some dinner, and I need to talk to a guy about selling my boat. So I'm going to go do that. I use Peak filament for my Ender 3. Peek. I'm going to have to look that up. Anyway, thank you guys all for joining for the stream. My fish really appreciate your contributions as well. So we're going to go ahead and call it, and we will not see you next Sunday. We're not doing it because we'll be at Reef Retreat. We'll be back the Sunday after that at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'm sure we will have lots of updates for you guys after the retreat. So we'll see you then. I'm going away.